Full mock trial championship round is now in session.
Good morning, everyone. Please be seated. All right, at this time, the court will now hear the case of Commonwealth versus Bobby Titano. And in this proceeding, because it is the championship round, whereas most of you have heard about the exclusionary rule for other teams, all teams are welcome. So welcome to everyone. And I want to remind everyone that electronic devices must be turned off. I'm going to practice what I preach for the duration of the trial, and that no communication is allowed between participating team members and others in the courtroom until the trial is concluded. Timekeepers should use the timers included in their team box at registration or at a stopwatch to keep time, and it looks like our timekeepers are here to my left, and they should not use their own cell phones. No cameras or videos are allowed for the duration of the trial except those authorized by the judiciary. Violations of this rule may result in the offender being asked to leave the courtroom. And at this time, just want to make sure, for those who don't know me, my name is Mona Manglonia. My day job is the district court judge over in the federal courthouse of the U.S. District Court for the Northern Islands. I am pleased to preside over this case. I'm going to ask that the judging panel also introduce themselves. I'm going to start with the gentleman closest to me on the left, Mr. Robbie Glass.
Hi, I'm Robbie Glass, I'm the city attorney.
Good morning, I'm Shelly, and also one of Judge Williams' law clerks.
Hi, I'm Matt Brown, I work for the judiciary.
All right, so having introduced everyone, I also want to make sure that our timekeepers are actually in place and ready. Are both timekeepers ready to go? Okay, I see the nod. And at this time, I'm going to ask that the teams introduce themselves by name and role, but not by their high school. And I am looking for a roster just so that I can follow with you. I hope there's a roster. I don't have it in front of me. Do the judges have a roster? Okay, that's more important because they're the ones passing judgment. If there is a roster, why don't we do it this way? When the introduction is made, or both counsel have a copy? All right, so can counsel from each of the teams please approach the bench and provide me with your copy? Thank you very much for the defense and for the prosecution. Thank you. All right, now that I have my copy and the judges have confirmed, this is, I call them the judges panel. The judging panel, this is a little bit confusing. I'm the presiding judge, but they are the judging panel. They are the ones that hold the fate in this game, okay? Starting with the plaintiff, who happens to be the prosecution. Please introduce yourselves as stated.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
My name is Danica Miller-Borgor, and I'll be examining Ellie Crisosimo, which will be portrayed by Carlos Calvo.
Good morning, Your Honor.
And I'll be cross-examining Don Camacho. And to my right, co-counsel.
Good morning, Your Honor. Aiding counsel for the prosecution. I'm going to be completing the direct examination of Ali Soares, who will be portrayed by Kylie Manglonia,
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
as well as the cross-examination of Pat Moon. And to my right,
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Edward Marantita. I will be conducting the direct examination of Lolo Borja, who will be portrayed by John Takwood,
good morning, Your Honor.
as well as conducting the cross-examination of Bobby Patton. I would also be doing the opening statement for the prosecution. I would like to acknowledge our timekeeper, Ms. Ashley Diabia.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning. Okay, so that concludes the introduction of the team roster for the plaintiff. I'm going to return this copy and ask that I get a copy of the plaintiff set. This is a defense. I have two defenses. There can't be two defenses. Do you have a copy of the plaintiff set? I take it the jurors, judging panel, you have a plaintiff set and a defense set. Okay. While that is being handled by the prosecution, I'm going to ask that the prosecution team go ahead and please take your seat. and then turn to the defense, and please introduce yourselves.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Hannah Lim. I'll be conducting the direct examination of Bobby Tyco, the cross-examination of Ellie Crisostomo, along with delivering the opening statement to the defense. Right at this time, my co-counsel, please introduce themselves.
All right. Good morning, Ms. Lim.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the jury, and opposing counsel. My name is Irene Wong, and I'll be conducting the direct examination of Don Camacho and the cross-examination of Lolo Borja.
Morning, Your Honor, members of the jury and opposing counsel. My name is David Park, and today I'll be conducting the direct examination of Pat Munian, the cross-examination of Ali Sars, as well as delivering the closing argument of the defense. Your Honor, at this time, may our witnesses please introduce themselves.
Yes.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the jury and opposing counsel. My name is Gia Rosling Dow, and I am Bobby Tyco.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the jury and opposing counsel. My name is Juan Benasha, and I am Pat Munian.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the jury and opposing counsel. My name is Trisha Joanne Simca, and I am Don Camacho. Your Honor, at this time, may our timekeeper please introduce yourself?
Oh, yes.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the jury and opposing counsel. My name is Mary Grace King Legaspi, and I'll be the timekeeper for this round.
All right. So that concludes the introduction. I'm going to now ask counsel for the prosecution if you could step forward to the bench, and let's switch out our sheet. No problem. Okay. Now this is consistent with what I heard. All right. At this time, I'm turning my question to the teams and to the judging jurors. If there are any conflicts of interest that should, or there needs to be a change in the judging panel, I am at this time turning to the teams to have that opportunity. Starting with the prosecution, do any of the members of the prosecution team have any arguments for any of the judging panel's ability to render their verdict?
None, Your Honor.
None. Let me turn to the defense.
None, Your Honor.
Okay. With that said, can I ask all 6 witnesses that are going to be testifying in this proceeding to please rise up, stand up and raise your right hands to be sworn in? All 6, okay. Do each of you promise that the testimony you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition? Yes. All right, thank you. Please be seated. And at this time, are there any preliminary matters that either team wishes to raise? As for the record, for the public, there are no motions in limine allowed and no sequestration of witnesses for any purpose. Starting with the prosecution.
Your Honor, yes. I noticed that we do have our waters and our notes and our tables may be allowed to keep them there.
So long as I get to keep mine as well, yes.
And during openings, closing examinations, may we be allowed to go about the well freely?
I so grant that for both.
And for direct and cross-examinations, may we be allowed to approach the podium immediately?
Oh, yes.
That's all, Your Honor.
All right, so that's the plaintiffs. Anyone from the defense side?
Yes, Your Honor. In addition to that of the prosecution, we ask that the agreed stipulation be entered into evidence.
Any objection?
None, Your Honor.
All right, so for the members of the jury, there is a one-sheet stipulation that was reached by the parties. And if you have not seen or reviewed it, that is so received into evidence. I trust the attorneys and the parties will bring those to life during the course of the trial. Anything else?
We also clarify.
I can confirm that. Can the jurors? Okay, I see nodding of the head. Mr. Robbie Glass, starting from the left. Yes?
Yes.
All right, I see. Anyone in the negative? Anyone missing your exhibits? None. It looks like the 6 jurors are complete. All right, so we've addressed the preliminary matters. And let's see, we are now at 8:41. It looks like we've done our preliminary matters, so we are ready to proceed. I'm going to, at this time, note that the prosecution will present its opening statement, followed by the defense's opening statement. And after the opening statements are presented, the prosecution will be allowed to present their case in chief, followed by the defendant's case in chief. And in each case in chief, there is a direct examination and cross-examination. Redirect examination and recross examination will be allowed So that's going to be standing. However, a redirect examination is not allowed. So all counsel are still on notice, and that is how we will proceed. And of course, once we conclude the presentation of the evidence, we will proceed with the closing arguments, first from the prosecution, and then followed by the defendant's closing arguments. And the prosecution may reserve time for rebuttal, and you can make that reservation at the appropriate time, not right now. And so with that statement of the outline of the case, we shall begin. Would the prosecution like to present its opening statement? So this will be Mr. Maritita.
When faced with financial difficulty, many would turn to legal solutions. However, Ms. Taitano chose to resort to illegal activity, to rob a bank. Good morning, Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, and people in the courtroom. The defendant, who used to be a med-good security technician, found herself in a difficult financial situation. You see, the defendant lost her job back in January of 2024, and after multiple missed mortgage payments, found herself on the brink of losing her dream home. That act of financial desperation chose to take financial desperate measures. She chose to rob the Saipan Community Bank. On June 10th of 2024, the defendant walked into the Saipan Community Bank armed with a silver handgun. She pointed this handgun at Lola Borja, the bank manager of the Saipan Community Bank, and Johnny Bermudez, the assistant manager. She passed them a note and a bag. That note said put everything behind the counter in the bag. Fearful for their lives, the terrified bank employees complied with her demands. And as she took that money, she ran outside the bank, jumped into a light blue sedan, and had sped away. And on that day, stole $3,000. But it just wasn't enough to pay for her mortgage payments, and she was running out of time. So not even 2 days later, she did the same thing to the Saipan Community Bank. This time on the Gualarai branch, stealing $5,000. Luckily, however, a GPS tracker was slipped into that. And in a bold move, had written a check and gave that check to Lola Borja, the same bank manager she held at gunpoint and robbed, the check paying off her entire mortgage. Now, Your Honor, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecution has brought forth to you 2 counts of armed robbery against the defendant, meaning that through the course of this trial, we must prove to you the defendant walked into that bank armed with a deadly weapon, stole from the bank, and through the course of that crime, threatened someone with that deadly weapon on the dates of June 10th and June 12th. And to prove these counts, we will call 3 witnesses to the stand. First, you will hear from Detective Eli Cristostomo from the Department of Public Safety. Now, Mr. Cristostomo will walk you through step by step of his investigation and how when he searched Bobby Patrick's home, he had found the same clothes that matched eyewitness descriptions of the robber, as well as the title to a car she claims that she sold to make those mortgage payments. Next, you'll hear from Ali Suarez, expert in GPS tracking. Now, Ms. Suarez will tell you how GPS tracking works and how that GPS tracker that was slipped into that money was found near a casino, Sweaties Casino, the same casino that Miss Bobby Patino was found after both robberies on June 10th and June 12th. And lastly, you will hear from Lola Borja himself, the bank manager of the Saipan Community Bank and an eyewitness to the event on June 10th. Mr. Borja will tell you the events that happened on June 10th, as well as the financial history that he and Miss Bobby Patino shared about this financial and mortgage and how he knew that her home was going to be foreclosed on. Now, Your Honor, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today we will prove to you the financial desperation that caused Miss Bobby Titano to rob the Saipan Community Bank twice. First in the ODI branch and then the Walurai branch, out of her financial desperation. That is why at the end of today's trial, we will get up here and we will urge you to find the defendant guilty on both charges of armed robbery. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. That was the prosecution's opening statement. We will now turn to the defense. Ms. Lim.
May it please the court, Your Honor, members of the jury, and opposing counsel. Mr. Maratita, this came up to you and told you, when faced with financial desperation, Bobby took the legal measures. However, they rushed to judgment. Good morning. Again, my name is Hannah Lim. I, along with my co-counsel, have the privilege of representing the defendant, Ms. Bobby Tyson. Bobby worked tirelessly for 19 years. She jumped multiple jobs before ending up at Mecca Security. And after 5 years of working, she saved enough money for a down payment on a house with the help of the Saipan Community Bank. However, in late 2023, you will learn that she loses her job and struggles to keep up with the mortgage. So she does the responsible thing and sells her car, and with some casino winnings, she brought her mortgage current on June 13th, 2024. Then, she gets arrested for robbing the same bank she had just paid, the Oleai and Walurai branches of the Saipan Community Bank. Today, the prosecution has charged Bobby with 2 counts of armed robbery. Now, as the defendant, Bobby has no obligation to present any evidence. She can sit quietly and require the prosecutor to prove his case. But instead, we will call 3 witnesses. First, you'll hear from Miss Bobby Tyson herself. She will tell you what she did and where she was on the mornings of June 10th and June 12th when the robberies occurred. But above all else, she will tell you that she did not rob the bank, explaining that the money she used to pay for her mortgage was lawfully earned. Next, Mr. Pat Marina, the assistant floor manager of Sochi Casino, will tell you about Bobby's business. He will tell you that Bobby cashed in her casino winnings in the form of a check written to the Saipan Community Bank. Finally, you'll hear from Ms. Dawn Camacho, an investigator specializing in GPS and location technology. She will offer direct evidence of Bobby's phone GPS showing she was at home at the time of the 2 robberies. In fact, the evidence will show that the only days Bobby was at the bank was on June 9th, when she tried to visit Willow, and on June 13th, when she paid the mortgage. You will hear that when they offered this data to the prosecution's lead detective, they were quickly dismissed. The prosecution rushed to judgment. Today you will hear that 2 of the 3 witnesses described the robber to be both taller and heavier than Bobby, yet they relied on the one that conveniently pointed to Bobby being the robber. You will hear that the getaway car scene was light blue, but Bobby's car was dark blue, and she had sold it before the first robbery even occurred. You will hear that Johnny Bermudez, an assistant manager of the bank who knew where the money was kept and had access to know when the security camera wasn't working, suddenly disappeared after the second robbery, but wasn't even considered a possible suspect. You will hear that Ali Suarez, the prosecution's GPS analyst, cannot tell you that the GPS tracker was carried by Bobby, but that they only assume that it was. Ali Suarez cannot tell you anything in regards to today's case. Finally, you will hear that the only clothing found with Bobby consistent with that of the robber was a hoodie, gloves, and jeans. However, members of the jury, they did not find a black mask, they did not find white sneakers, and most importantly, they did not find a silver handbag. After all the testimony, the judge will instruct you to decide whether the prosecution has proven each element of each charge beyond a reasonable doubt, leaving you firmly convinced that Bobby did rob the bank. However, if they fail to meet any of the elements, you must find Bobby not guilty. On behalf of Bobby, we ask that you do 2 things during today's trial. First, we ask you to listen to all of the evidence. Listen to the cross-examinations, because that is where the rush to judgment will be revealed. Listen prosecution's witnesses ignore Johnny Bermudez as a possible suspect. Second, we ask you not to lose sight of the reason for today's trial. You have one job, and that job is not to solve this case, but only to determine whether the prosecution has met its burden. Do not make the same mistake the prosecution did. Do not rush to judgment. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lim. That concludes the opening statements. We will now proceed to the presentation of the evidence, starting with the plaintiff for the Commonwealth government. We will have, is it Ms. Danica?
Your Honor, prosecution would like to call up Eddie Crisostomo to stand.
All right, so can Mr. Crisostomo please step up to the witness box? And you are reminded that you have already been sworn in. You know, I forgot, I think, where's the witness box? All right, that witness is seated. Counsel, you may proceed.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you please state your name for the record?
My name is Ellie Crisostomo.
Now, Mr. Eli Crisostomo, what is your occupation?
I work as a DPS detective.
And how long have you been working for as a DPS detective?
I've been working as a DPS detective ever since 2009, so about 16 years, and I've been under DPS for the last 22 years.
And with that, what sorts of cases have you handled?
I've handled a plethora of cases from major to minor. As for my minor cases, I've worked with vandalisms, shopliftings, as well as neighborly disputes. And as for my more major cases, I'm quite experienced in homicides as well as thefts.
You mentioned theft cases.
Yes.
Can you elaborate more on that?
Well, actually, back in 2017, I got a tip from an anonymous tipster which led me to busting one of the biggest and largest chop shops in the CNMI. And now that person is rightfully sentenced 8 years in prison.
How are you involved in this case?
I'm involved in this case because I'm the lead detective in charge of investigating the June 10th and June 12th robberies.
And with that, on June 10th, what did you do?
On June 10th, I clocked into work until I received an unexpected notice of the first robberies at the Olei branch.
And what was this notice about?
It was about the first robberies, and immediately after the robberies had occurred, I rushed to the scene and immediately started taking witness statements.
Before you started taking witness statements, what did you observe at the scene?
Well, everyone was quite shaken up and shocked, rightfully so. Robberies can be seen as quite traumatic events.
And with this witness testimonies, who did you take witness statements of?
I took witness statements from two individuals, Lolo Borja, the bank manager, who's seated over there, and Johnny Bermudez, the assistant bank manager.
And what was the states of these witnesses?
Well, Lolo Borja was very composed and answered my questions clearly and coherently, but on the contrary, Johnny Bermudez was nervous and just a nervous wreck, really.
And how do you know that was their state?
Well, like I said, Lolo was answering my questions coherently and clearly, and Johnny had been shaking, darting his eyes around, and very just nervous behavior, visibly.
Who did you interview first?
I interviewed Lolo Borja first.
And what did you get out of Lolo Borja?
From Lolo Borja, she had given me notice of how the robberies went down, as well as the attire and physical description of the robber.
You mentioned the attire and physical description of the robber.
Yes.
Can you elaborate more on that?
As for the attire, I had been made aware that the robber had been wearing a black mask, a black hoodie, blue...
Objection, hearsay.
Your Honor, this is not hearsay, rather it is an exception under 8032, present sense of impression. Witness right now has stated he immediately acted upon the call right after the robbery. Began taking witness testimonies right after he immediately responded to that robbery. And that witness he took testimony of is Lolo Borja.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Yes, you may.
As the witness himself has testified, Lolo Borja has calmed down, and in addition to that, it took 20 minutes to get from DPS station to the robbery, so they had already calmed down, so therefore it would not be an exception under present sense impression.
Your Honor, this is not this is not excited utterance. It is present sense of impression. Witness stated he immediately responded. He immediately acted upon that investigation. The defendant, the co-counsel right now just stated he acted later compared to the robbery. Rather, the witness just stated immediately.
All right, my ruling is the objection is sustained. The witness is testifying about statement of another witness who perceived it as it occurred. I'll give you that opportunity to raise this information with that particular witness at the stand, Ms. Lola Borja. So the objection is sustained.
Your Honor, motion to strike.
So granted. The jurors are so instructed to disregard that last testimony.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Counsel, you may continue.
And with that, who was the next witness you interviewed?
Johnny Bermudez.
And what did you get out of Johnny Bermudez?
Out of Johnny Bermudez, I was made aware of roughly the same thing that Lolo Borja told me, the rundown of the robberies, as well as the attire and physical description of the robber. Additionally, I was made aware that the cameras were not functional.
Objection, hearsay.
Your Honor, this is not hearsay. Rather, it is an exception, this time under excited utterance. Witness just stated the witness he collected testimony of was under a state of shock, a state of excitement, and that is the statement that he got from his interview.
Let me at least clarify. Counsel, are you objecting to the entire testimony thus far or the last statement testified to by the witness?
The last statement that the cameras were working, the only way the witness would have known that is through hearsay.
Okay, so that's the focus of the objection. Counsel, your response again?
Your Honor, I'll build more foundation on that.
All right, so at this time, the objection is sustained, but counsel may continue with the direct and see if that information will come out through this witness.
Your Honor, motion to strike once again.
And that's only granted to the limited portion. The prior testimony regarding the general information obtained is still admitted, and the jurors can consider that. However, that specific information as to whether or not there's a camera that was operational or not, that is in fact stricken from this witness's testimony.
Thank you,
Counsel,
Your
you may
Honor.
continue.
Now, right after you got your witness testimonies, what did you do?
I went on to scan meticulously and thoroughly the rest of the scene.
And did you find any evidence?
Unfortunately, I couldn't find any usable fingerprints or other forensic evidence. And through my investigation, I also did find out that the cameras were down.
And how do you know that these cameras were down?
Hearsay.
Your Honor, this is not hearsay. The question itself is not even asking whether or not that statement came from somebody else. Witness just stated he did his own investigation after he collected the witness testimonies.
Okay, so this is that fine line. So it is the witness's testimony that he conducted his own investigation. The question is, how did he acquire that information? So what I'll do is I'm going to sustain the objection, but allow you to delve into how that witness actually, as a part of the course of the investigation, is actually obtained.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
Yes.
The witness just stated he did his own investigation meticulously at that scene. There, he found out that the footage there was no evidence of footage. And then with that, he also checked whether or not it was even working.
Is that the proffer, that the witness himself physically checked the equipment and found out that it's not working? Is that your proffer, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor. He said that he meticulously looked at the scene after witness testimonies.
Counsel, any response? This is now recipient witness's testimony.
The objection remains, Your Honor.
Then the objection is overruled, given that the argument is this witness conducted his own investigation and performed his own observation. So the objection is overruled. You may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now with that, you mentioned no forensic evidence.
Unfortunately, yes.
How so?
Well, the robber had been wearing gloves and as well as...
Objection, hearsay. This testimony is made by Mr. Lolo Borja, which is obtained through hearsay.
Your Honor, this was also mentioned by the other witness that he got a testimony of, which is the assistant manager. I recall that statement was not stricken out. Rather, the footage itself was stricken out.
I did not strike the reference by counsel of the overall information, that there was a description and what was the description of the person and what was worn. Now we're into the specifics. And this is what I understand the objection to be. that if it's to the specifics, we need to make sure the witness has personal knowledge in order to testify to the specifics. So I am going to sustain the objection because that was previously overruled. I'm sorry, I'm going to sustain the objection because the prior objection was already sustained.
But, Your Honor, may I be heard?
Yes.
Witness stated similar description as Lolo Borja. It was the same as him, rather it was not directly from Lolo Borja. It is his own testimony from the witness.
Again, it's from another witness who was present at the scene, so the objection is sustained. Counsel, move on.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. And with that, what did you do afterwards?
Afterwards, I went to my office and began poring over the evidence I had from the first crime scene.
Okay. Now I'd like to direct your attention on June 12th.
Yes.
What did you do that day?
That day, I again clocked into my office and was looking through all the evidence I had. And then I again received a very unexpected and shocking notice about the second robberies at the Gualurai branch.
And did you act upon this notice?
I did. I immediately rushed to the scenes, and immediately after, or very close to the timeline that the robberies had occurred, I took witness statements.
And before you took witness statements, what did you observe?
Again, I observed, similar to the first robbery, that everyone was quite shaken up, and understandably so.
And who were these witnesses you took testimonies of?
I took testimonies from 2 bank tellers as well as 3 customers, and one of the bank tellers was Ben Pangilinan.
And what was the state of these witnesses?
Well, Ben, I noticed that he was very shaken up and he just couldn't keep himself together.
And with that, who did you interview first?
I interviewed Ben first.
And what did you get out of Ben?
From Ben, I was made aware of how the robberies had occurred, as well as, again, the attire and physical description of the robber.
You mentioned the physical description. Could you tell
Yes.
us more about that?
As for the physical description, the robber Ben Pangilinan had given me a physical description similar to Lolo Borja's. Additionally to the...
Objection, hearsay. Your Honor, this falls under exception of excited utterance. Witness just stated the state this witness was in the state of shock, was in the state of excitement. He immediately responded to the call right after the robbery, and he proceeded to take witness testimonies right after he responded to the scene, and that is the testimony he got from that witness himself.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Yes.
This statement that the robber was wearing the same attire and was the same physical description as Bobby was given minutes after, and it says in his affidavit that he had already calmed down. The excited utterance would be before. However, the description he gave was after he had already calmed down.
Is there a dispute as to this? Well, did the witness acknowledge that did Mr. Crisostomo, your witness right here in the stand, acknowledge that the witness that he was about to interview was in fact calmed down?
Unfortunately not, but he just stated the state of the witness when he responded to the scene.
That I heard. So I do agree that during the course of the excited utterance, all that statement will be admissible. I have not yet heard anything about the state. You can get into this on cross and possibly go to the weight of the evidence. So the objection is overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now with that, what did you do afterwards?
Well, I took the witness statements from Ben Pangilinan, who gave me the attire and physical description. And again, the attire was a black hoodie, a black mask, leather gloves, blue jeans, a white sneaker, and brandished a silver handgun. And as for the physical description, again, it was similar to Lolo Borja's, which is similar to Miss Teichner.
Objection, hearsay. Your Honor, the witness gave, the witness, Ben Pangilinan, that they interviewed, gave 2 different descriptions. One was when they were excited, which is what the witness is testifying to right now, and then after he had calmed down, he testified again that the descriptions did not match the robber.
That the witness, Mr. Crisostomo, just testified that they did match.
Yes, Your Honor, that's when they were, that's after, my apologies, that's after they had calmed down. Your Honor, I believe the witness right now just re-answered the question that I previously asked.
That would be asked and answered, but more so in the line of, this is the witness's statement of what he understands arose without telling the jurors the particulars, and so this goes to his state of mind. I'm going to overrule the objection. The particulars are not into evidence yet because he has not been allowed to testify as to the particulars, but he does have the summary, and so he's allowed to testify about that information and how this goes to his state of mind and his course of conduct. So objection's overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. After you got witness testimonies, what did you do?
Well, I went on to interview one of the customers, but then I was interrupted by Ben once again.
And once again, what did you get out of Ben?
From Ben, I was made aware of a GPS tracking device, and as this counsel mentioned, I was made aware of a slight change to a physical description, but it didn't really bother me too much.
All right. And with that before I talk about the GPS, what did you observe at the scene? My apologies, let me rephrase that. Did you do anything after you got the witness testimonies?
Well, after hearing about this GPS tracking device, I immediately jumped on the lead and rushed to track this device down.
And how did you track this device?
I called up our forensic specialist, our experienced forensic specialist at DPS, and asked her to help us track this down.
And how did she track this?
Well, we were just on the phone, and she was giving me directions as to where this GPS device was heading, and we followed it down to the side of the road next to Sweaty's Casino.
And with that, why is Sweaty Casino relevant?
Well, Sweaty's Casino is relevant in this case because from my investigations, Bobby Titano had sourced income from this casino.
And right after you got that GPS, right after you tracked that, what did you do?
After this, I went back to the scene of the crime and thoroughly scanned the rest of the area.
And you did not find any evidence?
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find any usable fingerprints. And again, after investigating, there was no video footage.
So no forensic evidence, no footage. But why is there no forensic evidence?
Well, similar to the first robberies, the robber had been wearing gloves and covered all around, making it hard to get any forensic evidence or hairs and whatnot.
What preceded your investigation?
Preceding this, I was just in my office scanning through both of the evidence I had from both of the robberies, and I received an unexpected notice from Lolo Borja.
And what was this notice about?
It was pertaining to a check that Bobby Titano had recently submitted to the banks.
And what is this check about?
This check was submitted to her to pay off his mortgage, and she expressed her suspicions of this check.
And right after you got that call, right after you got that notice, what did you do?
I jumped on this lead and I went to the banks, grabbed the check for evidence, and went to Mr. Titano's home to conduct my preliminary investigations.
And with your preliminary investigations, what did you do?
I knocked on Mr. Titano's door, or Mrs. Titano's door, I apologize. And by the time she opened the door, she was already on the defensive.
And how do you know she was already defensive?
Well, she had stated that immediately when she opened the door, she'd stated, "What's this all about?" And I hadn't even identified myself.
Okay. And with that, what was your interaction with Bobby?
I was able to get information that Bobby had recently sold a car, and as well that Bobby's whereabouts on June 10th, but I wasn't able to get anything on June 12th.
Okay. You couldn't get anything on June 12th. Why is that?
Well, when I was questioning him on June 12th, Bobby had rudely shut the door on my face, and I didn't even have time to say bye.
All right. And then what preceded your investigation?
Preceding this, I went to get a search and arrest warrant, and I came back to his house with this warrant and searched his home.
And what did you find with your search warrant?
With our search, we found multiple articles of clothing linking Mrs. Titano to the robberies. We also found a title to a car.
Now, Your Honor, what I have here on hand is Exhibit 3 titled Titano's car title. May I approach the witness with this? May I approach the witness for identification purposes?
Yes, you may. And this has already been shared with opposing counsel. You may approach the witness then.
Okay. May the record reflect that I am showing the document to the opposing counsel. Now, Mr. Crisostomo, what is that document?
This is Mrs. Titano's car title.
And did you find that there? Did you find that there in her house?
Yes, we did find this at her house.
And what is a car title?
A car title is a legal document indicating ownership of a vehicle or car.
Now, Your Honor, prosecution would like to admit Exhibit 3 into evidence.
Any objection?
Your Honor, lack of foundation.
Lack of foundation. Relevance to this title, counsel?
Your Honor, what was your
Lack of foundation.
Lack of foundation.
lack of foundation? Your Honor, I built the foundation for that to lead towards this car title. He stated he did his preliminary rounds in investigation, interviewed Mr. Bobby Taino, got a statement from Bobby Taino that he sold a car, a Blue Town car, right? And with that, he did his search warrant and then found the car title that symbolizes legal ownership of that town car.
The blue car, you mean?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so that has been previously received into evidence. Final argument, counsel?
Your Honor, this witness cannot testify that this is a legal document, as they don't have the expertise for that.
As to the legality or the validity of the document?
Yes,
Is that-
Your Honor.
Okay, the objection is overruled. The witness has testified that he obtained a search warrant and found this document in the home of the defendant, Ms. Titano, and there's testimony about a description of a vehicle that the witness has indicated is consistent with this document. So Exhibit 3 is received into evidence and may be published to the jury.
I would like the jury to acknowledge you received the Exhibit 3. Please refer to this.
All right, looks like all jurors have acknowledged that they can now look at that Exhibit 3.
Now, Mr. Crisostomo, whose name is on this title?
On this title, it clearly states that Mrs. Titano's name is on it.
Your Honor, no further questions.
All right, the witness is passed. So let's turn to opposing counsel. It looks like this will be by Ms. Lim again.
Yes, Your Honor. Good morning, Mr. Crisostomo.
Good morning.
As a detective, you've investigated different cases.
Many. I've been a detective for around 16 years, and I've investigated my fair share of homicide and theft cases.
As you mentioned, these cases were regarding shoplifting and vandalism.
That is to my minor cases, but as for major cases, as I mentioned before in my direct examination, I have my fair share of experience in both homicides and theft cases.
Isn't it true that this is your first case covering a bank robbery?
That is true, but as I said before, I am experienced in theft cases too.
Thank you. I want to talk about the witnesses you've interviewed for today's case, starting with June 10th.
Sure.
You interviewed Mr. Lolo Borja.
I did.
He told you the robber drove off in a light blue sedan. Is that correct?
That is true, yes.
Objection, hearsay.
You don't want the jury to know that it's a light blue van or car?
Your Honor, I'll take back my objection.
Okay, so the objection is withdrawn.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The testimony stands.
I'll re-ask the question. Mr. Lolo told you the robber drove off in a light blue sedan.
Light blue, yes.
Yes. Next, you interviewed Mr. Johnny Bermudez.
I did.
He told you the robber was taller than Bobby.
Yeah.
5 to 6 inches taller.
hmm
Is that a yes or no question?
Your Honor, she's assuming facts, not in evidence. Well, the witness did not state that was the description of what he observed at the scene or how he perceived the robber. That was never disclosed in direct.
That is true. On direct examination, this witness did not and was not allowed to testify as to the actual robbery witness's observations, because that would have been hearsay. Here, I'm hearing defense counsel questioning the witness, the detective's performance in his investigation and some discrepancies. So that is relevant to the case, to the extent that the witness has and can confirm such information, that will be permissible. It's not an issue of hearsay, it's a matter of the discrepancy. In fact, we don't even know which part of those discrepancy is the truth. So objection is overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor. I'll ask the question again.
Sure.
He told you the robber was 5 to 6 inches taller than Bobby.
He did, but however, he was in a very stressed and shaken state. And based on my last 16 years of experience
Thank
as a
you.
detective,
He also told you the robber was heavier than Bobby.
he'd indicated this. But again, as for his state, he was very shocked and shaken.
Thank you, Mr.
And-
Crisostomo.
Can I finish my answer, please?
I got the answer to the question. Thank you. He told you the robber was 30 to 40 pounds heavier. Is that correct?
That is true, but however, as I stated again, he was in a shaken state, making his statement quite unreliable. And based on my experience as a...
Thank you, Mr. Crisostomo. I want to talk more about Johnny Bermudez. As you mentioned during your interview, he was a nervous wreck.
Yes, he was a nervous wreck.
His eyes kept darting back and forth.
That is true.
He stuttered.
He did stutter.
He couldn't answer your question. He couldn't focus on your questions.
Right? He couldn't even get a sentence out. Right.
In fact, he said that was just too much, too far.
I mean, he was a victim of the robberies. It's a traumatic event. Who wouldn't say such things?
Is
I
that a
mean, he
yes to
had
my question?
Yeah, it is a yes. He had a gun pointed to his chest.
Thank you. No. Mr. Johnny Bermudez is the assistant manager of the bank. Is that correct?
Assistant bank manager, yes.
You were not able to locate him after the second robbery.
That is true. I checked his apartment as well as going to the banks to see if he went.
What is the relevance, counsel?
Your Honor, this goes to show that despite Johnny Bermudez disappearing and might have been a possible suspect, the detective did not investigate further, and like mentioned, they were not able to locate him, so they did not have any further efforts to find Johnny Bermudez.
Ah, so it's a part of the defense's theory.
Your Honor, but this was after a traumatic event.
The follow-up question has moved from the traumatic event to, has anyone found Johnny Bermudez? So is that your objection, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor.
Objection's overruled. This goes to the defense that apparently the defendants are now introducing.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor. Johnny Bermudez had disappeared.
He had disappeared, and you mentioned before as a possible suspect. I mean, that's so out of the blue. He was a victim of these robberies.
Thank you, Mr. Crisostomo. I want to talk about the second robbery on June 12th.
Sure.
You interviewed Mr. Ben Pangilinan.
Yes.
After Mr. Ben calmed down, you spoke to him once again.
I did.
After he calmed down, he told you the robber was taller than Bobby.
He never indicated specifics. It could have been maybe even a centimeter or maybe even just less than a pound heavier.
Is that a yes to my question?
Sure.
He told you the robber was taller than Bobby.
Again, it could have been, he never gave me specifics as to the height and weight. It could have been a centimeter and again, less than a pound.
You did not mention this in your direct examination. Is that correct?
I didn't, but what's your point?
Thank you. Now, I want to move on to the next day on June 13th.
Sure.
You got a call from Mr. Lolo this day.
I did get a call, and this was a major breakthrough in my investigations. That she'd expressed her suspicions of this and how Bobby had supposedly...
Thank you, Mr. Crisostomo. As you mentioned, it was... Your Honor, opposing counsel would like to request for the witness to finish his statements. Your Honor, my question was whether he got a call from Mr. Lolo.
Yes or no question calls for a yes or no, and he started with the yes or no. So the question was answered, so the objection's overruled.
Thank you, Your
Or
Honor.
the
Thank you,
request
Your
by
Honor.
opposing counsel for any further leeway. You can indulge in the redirect.
Mr. Lolo informed you about his suspicion.
She did, or he did, sorry.
Mr. Crisostomo, there were no fingerprints available in this case.
After thoroughly and meticulously scanning the scene, there
Mr.
was...
Crisostomo, I'd appreciate it if you would answer with a yes or no. There were no fingerprints available in this case.
There was actually fingerprints, but no usable fingerprints.
Thank you. No video footage?
After scanning the rest of the scene,
Mr.
I was...
Crisostomo, once again, we'd
I'm
really
getting to my
appreciate it if
answer.
you would answer with a yes
Your Honor,
or no.
asked and answered.
Your Honor, this question was not asked nor answered.
Objections overruled. That was on their direct. We're now cross, so counsel at cross-examination can talk about the video.
Thank
So-
you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor. There was no voice recordings available.
No voice recordings.
No video footage.
Again, after scanning the scene, I found that there was...
Your Honor, non-responsive.
So it's a yes or no question to the witness.
Of course, Your Honor. I apologize.
There were no video footage.
No video footage.
Isn't it true that Mr. Lolo's tip was your only lead in this investigation?
Well, I had my witness statement from Lolo Borja, too.
Your witness statements that had discrepancies in it.
Well, I had received 3 key witness statements, and 2 of them were quite unreliable, in my opinion.
Yet those 2 witnesses described the robber to be taller than Bobby.
Again, Johnny had...
Mr. Cristostomo, please answer with a yes or no.
Yes, but Ben had never indicated anything.
2 of those witnesses described the robber to be also...
Your Honor, badgering of the witness.
Counsel was going to another question, so I don't think that's a badgering. So to the extent that that's an objection, it's overruled. So
Thank
we're
you, Your
talking
Honor.
about the two witnesses in another area.
Thank you, Your Honor. 2 of the 3 witnesses described the robber to be heavier than Bobby.
2 unreliable witnesses in my years.
Is that
of
a yes to my
experience.
question?
Sure.
Thank you. Now, after hearing this, you went to Bobby's house.
I did go to Bobby's house to conduct my preliminary
As you
investigations.
mentioned, you had not identified yourself as a cop.
Well, I was just conducting preliminary investigations, and I just decided to go and ask him a couple of questions.
Is that a yes to my question? You
That
had not
is-
identified yourself as a cop.
That is a yes.
This is your first time meeting Bobby.
Correct, but I had received this lead, this huge lead, and I needed to
Thank
go see
you.
him for myself.
So, being your first time seeing Bobby, she seemed confused.
He seemed, when he opened the door, she was on the defensive.
Exactly. Being your first time seeing Bobby, you questioned her about a stolen car.
Well, immediately when she opened the door, I didn't even.
Is that a
say-
yes to my question?
I did question her, but when she opened the door,
Thank
she
you. And being your first time seeing Bobby, you questioned her where she was the past few days.
I did, and I questioned her on the light blue sedan seen at the robberies.
Thank you. And to this, Bobby seemed confused.
She seemed on the defensive, yes.
Thank you. Now, later that day, you came back to Bobby's house.
I did, with a warrant to search and arrest her, rightfully so.
Exactly. Before you had even searched the house, you had already gotten a warrant for her arrest.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Before you had even searched the house, you had already gotten a warrant for her arrest.
I had gotten a warrant for both search and arrest.
Thank you. Now, so you had already concluded that Bobby was your suspect?
Based on the evidence I had and the leads that I've gotten, I have denoted that she is the most likely suspect, yes.
Most likely?
Yes, the most
Thank
most
you.
likely.
Let's talk about what you found in Bobby's house. You found a hoodie.
I did, and I found a hoodie, I found blue jeans, as well as leather
Please
gloves.
answer my
which-
question. You found gloves.
I am answering your question. I found a hoodie, blue jeans, and leather gloves, which are all according to eyewitness
Thank you.
testimony.
Wouldn't you agree that a hoodie, gloves, and jeans are common pieces of clothing?
Sure, but leather gloves on an island?
Are you aware that Bobby was doing construction on her house?
I am unaware of that, no.
Thank you. Now, let's talk about what you did not find. You did not find a black mask.
He must have thrown it out.
Is that a yes to my question?
I did not find a black.
You did not find white sneakers.
I didn't find a couple articles of clothing, sure, but
Is that a yes to my question?
that is yes. But again,
You did not find a paper bag.
he could have discarded these items based on my experience.
Again, is that a yes to my question, Mr. Cristostomo?
Sure.
You did not find cash.
I didn't find any cash, but he could have used it.
You did not find a light blue sedan.
We found a title to a car of a blue sedan, and this indicated...
You had not seen the car. Is that correct?
I myself haven't seen the car, but we did find a title.
Finally, you did not find a silver handgun.
He could have, based on my experience as a detective, many...
Is that a yes to my question, Mr. Cristostomo? You did not find a silver handgun.
Yes, but based
Thank
on...
you. No further questions, Your Honor.
The witness is passed. Any redirect, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Let's just find out, how much time does counsel have? Oh, you got quite a bit.
All right. Mr. Eli Crisostomo, did you have the need to re-clarify these witness testimonies?
Well, I had 3 eyewitness testimonies, and I found that Lolo's was the most reliable.
And can you guarantee that what each witness have stated is substantially similar?
As for Lolo Borja and Ben Pangilinan, Ben never indicated specifics, so I'd say that it could have been similar, yes.
A town car was mentioned, correct?
A town car was...
By all the witnesses?
Yes.
By Bobby himself?
Yes, and a title was found in his
And
home.
you also found the warrant, correct?
I
You
did.
also found the title to the car with the warrant, correct?
Right, I did find that.
And then you also found descriptive clues from the witness that closely relates to the witnesses, correct?
Yes, I found descriptive clues.
And with that, you've also identified that Bobby had no alibi during the days of the robberies, correct?
Correct, yeah, he had no one to testify.
And can you guarantee that you work meticulously with each case?
I can. I have 16 years of experience as a DPS detective and 22 years of experience under
Your Honor,
DPS.
No further questions.
All right, well, that concludes the prosecution's presentation. Can we excuse the witness, Madam Defense Counsel?
Yes, Your
Ms.
Honor.
Kim? All right, so Ms. Lim is also waiting. All right, thank you, Mr. Crisostomo. You may step down, return to your seat. Prosecution can continue with your second witness.
Yes, Your Honor, the prosecution calls Ali Soares to the stand.
All right, so this is Ms. Ali Soares. As you take the witness stand, you are reminded that you are under oath. She acknowledged.
Well, first of all, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, or good morning.
Or good morning, I apologize. Could you please state your full name for the record?
My name is Ali Soares.
Ms. Soares, what do you do for a living?
I work as a computer forensic specialist for the Detectives Division of Department of Public Safety.
And what are some of your duties and responsibilities as a computer forensic analyst?
My work at DPS revolves around computer forensics, technology, and GPS technology.
And how long have you served in that position?
I've been working here at DPS since 2016, giving me around 8 years of experience.
And how are you involved in today's case?
I'm involved because I learned that there was a GPS tracking device slipped into the bag of the stolen cash stolen from Saipan Community Bank, and I was tasked to investigate this device.
And what was your method of investigation?
So to put it simple, I use satellites. By using satellites, these satellites are pinned to a GPS tracking device, and they send electromagnetic waves, which conveys information telling me the longitude.
Improper lay witness opinion. Okay, so,
Your Honor, may I respond?
yes.
She's only testifying as to personal knowledge in her occupation. She hasn't stated an opinion. She's just stating how she uses certain things to conduct her investigations.
Yes, counsel.
Ms. Soares is giving a testimony around a subject that needs specialized knowledge.
And do we need, you're saying her 8 years' experience at DPS is not specialized, a basis for specialized knowledge?
Regarding GPS technology, yes.
Ah. Counsel, your response, do you want to take some time to lay more foundation on this area?
Your Honor, I'm just establishing her knowledge, her personal knowledge with the mode of investigation. She's only testifying past personal knowledge. She's not offering an opinion on it. She's not offering any conclusions on it. She's just testifying what she knows about on the subject.
Well, the subject is this GPS discussion, and that's the object of the objection. So the question is, how would she know anything about that?
Would
And-
you have me lay more foundation?
Yes.
I can move on, Your Honor.
All right, so the objection is sustained. We'll allow the witness to first get some more foundation, and then she can revisit that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Motion to strike.
Yes, the jurors are so instructed until we get the foundation.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So, Ms. Soares, in your position, you had to have received higher education.
That is correct.
Could you please give the court a brief educational background you had to get your job?
So I actually graduated from Stanford University in 2015, and I obtained my bachelor's degree in the fields of physics and computer science. And in 2020, I attended a professional education course at the University of Guam, in which I obtained my certification for Computing Technology Industry Association Security Plus in computer forensics and cybersecurity. And I also attended many lectures from Mr. Bradford Parkinson, who is actually one of the main developers of GPS technology.
And you use this education in your GPS investigations?
That is correct.
And why does this involve, and why does this require specialized education?
It is known that computer technology and GPS technology is very hard to sorry, let me compose myself a bit. It is very hard to break down, so it takes higher knowledge to be able to learn these key components that make up technology.
And would the average person be able to understand this level of knowledge without proper education?
No, not without the proper education.
Now, have you testified in court before?
Yes, of course. I'm a I'm a computer forensic specialist, and I've worked with many criminal enterprises.
And are your methods generally accepted in your field?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, with that, the prosecution moves to admit Ms. Ali Soares as an expert in GPS systems and criminal investigation.
Defense counsel, would you like to voir dire in this area or any response?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Okay. Given the testimony, the court will accept the witness as an expert in the GPS area discussed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, you mentioned using GPS systems in your investigation. Could you explain your method of investigation?
So it can get a bit confusing, so I'm just going to simplify it. So I utilize satellites, and there are 4 or even more satellites pinned to a specific GPS tracking device. And these satellites send electromagnetic waves or signals, which conveys information about the longitude, latitude, and height of the GPS tracking device, giving me accurate information of where the GPS tracking device is located.
And you used this data in your investigation today?
Yes, that is correct.
And what did you see when you accessed that GPS data?
So after I accessed the GPS systems, I saw a blue dot traveling southward on Chatham-Poly Arnold Road, and as it was traveling, it was approaching the turn to Newton's Drive, and briefly, when it passed that point, it disappeared, then reappeared again at a location on the right side of the road, a bit beyond the turning point to Newton's Drive.
Now, are there any factors that could have possibly affected your conclusions?
Well, yes, of course. Like any other computer technology, it won't always be 100%. However, like I said, there are 4 or more satellites pinned to a GPS tracking device to ensure that it gives the final conclusions with high accuracy.
So is the tracking data you got from the GPS tracker in the robber's bag generally reliable?
Yes, it is.
And did you happen to memorialize this GPS information in any way?
Yes, I've made a screenshotted map showcasing the location and its last known location of the GPS tracking device.
Your Honor, what I have in my hand has been pre-marked for identification purposes as Exhibit 1. May I offer opposing counsel a copy?
Yes.
May I approach the witness for identification purposes?
Yes.
Now, Ms. Soares, do you recognize the exhibit?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
This is the map that I made showcasing the last known location of the GPS tracking device.
And why did you choose to memorialize it in this way?
It is a basic way for me in my work field or my workspace to document and keep record of my findings.
And so it's a regular practice in your occupation to record your information in this manner?
Yes, that is correct.
Now, was this specific screenshot made at or near the time of the conclusion of your investigations?
Yes, yes it is.
And does it fairly and accurately depict the information and GPS data that you analyzed?
Yes, that is correct.
Your Honor, the prosecution moves to admit exhibit.
Exhibit 1 is introduced. Any objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
All right. Without any objection, Exhibit 1 is received and may be introduced to the jury.
Thank you, Your Honor. So again, could you clarify what you saw with that GPS data?
So, as you can see, after I inputted all the information needed to access the GPS tracking device, it was traveling southward on Chatham-Poly Arnold Road, and as it was approaching the turning point to Newton's Drive, in which it briefly passed, the blue dot disappeared, and then it reappeared again at a location on the right side of the road.
And that point there, what does that depict?
The point here depicts the last known locations of the GPS tracking device.
And on this exhibit, you chose to highlight Sweaty Casino. Why is that?
It is a prominent location to keep in mind. Money around that area flows in and out frequently, and it is also right near where the GPS tracking device was last located.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. The witness is passed. Any cross, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. So we will hear from, I guess this was Mr. Park.
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Good morning, Ms. Sars.
Good morning.
I'll be asking you a couple questions regarding your investigation today.
Okay,
So you're an expert in GPS systems, correct?
that is correct.
Therefore, you're aware of the fact that GPS technology isn't 100% accurate.
Yes, but like I said, it's still impossible to have my any like minor effects that can drastically change the accuracy of the system.
Impossible?
Sorry, what?
Impossible?
Impossible?
You just stated that it's impossible.
I said it's nearly impossible.
Thank you. And GPS systems uses AI tools to predict where things the receiver will go, correct?
That is correct.
And you said that this receiver was constantly moving, correct?
That is correct.
Which added another layer of complications.
That is correct.
That's why you were unsure of how it got found where Detective Chrysosimo found it, correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear your question.
That's why you were unsure of how it got placed where Detective Chrysosimo found it, correct?
Well, I still did conduct my research and
Yes,
I did
but
draw my
you
conclusions.
were unsure of it.
I wasn't entirely unsure.
So you assume that the driver went down Middle Road?
Based on my expert opinion as well as my experience.
Yes. So is that a yes to my question?
Yes, based on my expert opinion.
And then you assume that the driver slowed down,
That's correct.
and then you assume that the driver dropped the device out of the window.
They discarded of it
So they dropped it?
some way or another.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Harris. And this GPS system doesn't identify who has the receiver, correct?
I never said who it identified. I just had to track the GPS tracking device.
so this technology does not determine who has the tracker. Like who has
That's
the tracker.
correct.
Yes, so you weren't able to identify whether this was Bobby Titano.
I wasn't trying to identify. I'm just trying to identify the relevance
Yeah,
of this
thank
tracking
you.
device.
Thank you. But a way you could have identified who had it was through a geofence search, correct?
That is correct.
However, you were not able to find any electronic identifier of Bobby's, correct?
Well, I tried to submit a geofence to Google, but they were late to
Oh,
respond.
no, but like in this specific instance, you were not able to find any electronic identifiers of Bobby Titano, correct?
Well, that only applies to devices with Google services, but otherwise, no, there were no devices.
Please answer my question with a yes or no. You were not
I
able,
was answering your question.
You were not able to find any electronic identifier of Bobby's, correct?
Like I said, that only applies to devices with Google services. However, no, there are no devices located.
Your best bet was to locate Bobby Titano's email address,
Yes, that's correct.
but you did not.
I wasn't able to obtain it.
And just like you said, you submitted a geofence search warrant to Google, correct?
That is correct.
And you disregarded its findings.
The timing?
You disregarded its findings.
Like I said, that only applies to devices with Google services.
That is not an answer to my question. My question is, you disregarded these findings, correct?
By findings, you mean the locations
The
of...
findings of the search warrant to Google.
Well, Google was late to give me that search warrant.
But you did receive
Yes, I did.
findings. And you disregarded its findings.
Well, that's because I was already not involved with the case anymore.
Well, but these findings were that there were no devices present at both robberies, correct?
Yes, but like I said, that only applies to devices
But
with
that
Google
is a yes
services.
to my answer.
That's
yes to my
correct.
question. All right. And after this, you did not look for any other suspects.
Well, my only role in this case is to track the GPS tracking
Yes.
device.
Thank you. And you did not have Bobby's phone
No, I did not.
or Bobby's email.
That is correct.
So you had nothing of Bobby's.
No,
You were unable to identify who the robber was.
I'm not trying to identify. I'm trying to track the GPS tracking device placed in the bag of stolen cash.
All right. So, Ms. Sars, let's see what you just told us today. You told us there was a GPS tracker and it was dropped, correct?
It was discarded.
Yes. And that is the only thing you're testifying here today, correct?
I'm only testifying about the GPS tracking device.
Yes. And that it was dropped.
It was discarded.
Yes. And that's it.
Yes, because that's my
Thank you.
only
No further
involvement in this
questions.
case.
All right, the witness is passed. Any redirect? Mr. Yes, that was Mr. Calvo.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Ali Sars, the fact that the GPS tracker was found, possibly dropped, is that the only thing you can do in this case?
No, that there's still another few conclusions.
And you've already raised your conclusion to the jury.
No, I did not yet. Only the one specific conclusion.
Would you like to raise those conclusions that you had after conducting your investigations?
So one other conclusion is that the vehicle that the device was traveling in, it slowed down, and then the device slipped out of the bag of stolen cash. And the other one that I already mentioned, the vehicle slowed down, and the person in the vehicle found the device and discarded of it one way or another.
So there were other conclusions that you had.
Yes, these are my conclusions.
Above conclusions that you stated on your exhibits.
I'm sorry, can you rephrase?
On top of those are other conclusions that you had on top of the conclusions you made about your exhibit.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, so that concludes the redirect. No recross, I presume, Mr. Park?
No recross.
All right, with that, thank you, Ms. Saris.
Thank
That
you, Your
concludes your
Honor.
testimony. You may step back and return to your seat. Let's continue with the presentation of the evidence by the government. Looks like Mr. Maritita will call your next witness.
Your Honor, prosecution would like to call Mr. Lolo Borja to the stand.
All right, Mr. Borja. Please step up to the witness box. And you are reminded that you are currently under oath, okay? So confirmed. All right, looks like the witness is ready. You may proceed, Mr. Maritita.
Good afternoon, Mr. Borja. Can you please state your full name for the record?
Good morning, I'm Lolo Borja.
Now, Mr. Borja, what is your occupation for the court?
I currently work as the manager for the Saipan Community Bank, but you'll find me in the Oleai branch.
And what do your duties entail at the Saipan Community Bank as its manager?
I am responsible for helping people with their financial struggles, letting people a job, mortgage for a house, and write foreclosure letters.
And how long have you worked at the Saipan Community Bank?
I've worked for quite a while as a manager.
Now, Mr. Borja, do you recognize the defendant in this room?
Yes, I really do.
And who are they?
That is Bobby Tatano.
And who is Bobby Taitano?
Bobby Tatano is one of the technicians that was assigned to us in our bank by Mekit Security, and as well as one of our regular customers.
And how do you know Miss Bobby Taitano?
I know her as, if I can remember correctly, the year, around 2015, 2016 is when I first met her.
And how did you get to meet her?
She was, again, as I mentioned before, she was the technician that was assigned to our bank.
And as pertaining to your personal knowledge, Mr. Borja, what were her duties at Mekit Security for the Saipan Community Bank?
She was usually in charge of ensuring our security cameras and systems are working 24/7, and if anything, we can even schedule upgrades.
And you also mentioned she was a customer of yours. How so?
She would come often to my desk to check with her bank account info, as well as to request for a mortgage.
And what was this mortgage for, Mr. Borja?
She wanted to buy her dream house.
And she would pay these mortgage payments?
Yes, both on time and on full.
Did she ever stop paying them?
Yes, she did. Around January 2024 is when she stopped making these payments.
Did you ever find out why she stopped?
According to Bobby herself, she mentioned to me that she wasn't able to make any more payments because she lost her job.
And did you ever try and meet with her regarding these mortgage payments?
Yes, I did actually. I did make 2 efforts just to check with her.
And can you tell me about the first effort?
With the first visit, I wanted to see whether she could still make her payments on time, but that's when she mentioned she's trying to look for a job, so we decided to be flexible with her and give her an extension for 1 month.
And was she able to make the payment with this extension?
Unfortunately, with the extension, she has not made any payments.
What was going to happen should she not be able to make any more payments?
If they do not meet their payments on time, we would have to write them a foreclosure letter, warning them the foreclosure procedures that will be happening if they do not pay in full during the deadline.
Your Honor, I have what is with me been pre-marked as Exhibit 4. May I approach the witness for identification purposes?
Yes, you may.
And may the record reflect, I am handing opposing counsel a copy of Exhibit number 4.
So noted.
Thank you very much.
Now, Mr. Borja, what is that document I just handed to you?
This is the foreclosure letter that I wrote.
And how are you familiar with that document?
I am the one who wrote this foreclosure letter for Bobby Tatano.
And this was made at or near the time where Ms. Taitano was missing her payments?
That is correct.
And is this a regular activity for the bank to send out these foreclosure notices?
Correct.
Is it also a regular activity to archive these foreclosure notices under the bank?
Regular procedures, yes it is.
And is that copy fair and accurate to the representation of what you were trying to convey to Ms. Taitano?
Yes, everything is here for her.
And you are qualified to write this?
Yes, as a bank manager, I am.
Thank you, Mr. Borja. Your Honor, prosecution moves to admit exhibit number 4 into evidence.
Any objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
All right, without objection, Exhibit 4 is received into evidence and may be published to the jury.
I would like to remind the jury that they have received copies of the exhibits and affidavits. May you please refer to page 43, exhibit number 4, the foreclosure notice to Mr. Taitano.
That's a correct identification. You may proceed.
Now, Mr. Borja, who was that letter addressed to?
Again, as I mentioned, it was addressed to Bobby Taitano.
And when was that letter given to him?
Within the foreclosure letter, I sent it to her in April 26, 2024.
And what was going to happen to her home should she not be able to meet this deadline?
If she doesn't meet the deadline, we would have to foreclose her home.
And what was the deadline on the foreclosure notice?
It should be in June 14th before that.
Now, Mr. Borja, I would like to shift your attention to the date of June 10th. What happened, if anything, on that day?
Me and my assistant manager were getting ready to open the bank, but then right after we had a sudden encounter with a robber.
And what happened during that encounter?
Well, while the gun was being pointed at us, we were startled, and then that robber lended us a note, which it demanded us to follow its orders.
And what happened during those orders, Mr. Borja?
We would then follow its demands, went behind the counter, took the money, and returned it to the robber.
Did anything else happen after this robbery, Mr. Borja?
Immediately after the starting event, we would then run behind the counter, contact the police of the events.
And what happened after the events of this robbery?
Immediately after, Cristasmo contacted me first.
And after the days of the robbery, did anything else happen?
Yes, it did. We had another surprising encounter with Bobby.
And what happened during that encounter?
With the encounter, she nervously approached us, still being surprised with a check, and I felt very elated for her.
And what happened during this?
Immediately after letting us the check, we would then contact Eli Cristasmo of what happened.
Thank you, Mr. Borja. Your Honor, it seems I am out of time. I have no further questions.
All right, so the witness is passed. Any cross-examination by the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Before I proceed, may I get a time check, please? About 5 minutes left.
Time check says 5 minutes left for cross-examination.
I'm sorry, 7 minutes left.
7. And if you're going to move around the well, please grab that hand mic.
Good afternoon, Mr. Borja.
Good morning.
My apologies. Good morning. Mr. Borja, you have been working at the bank for a while now, correct?
That is correct.
And you do know the defendant, Miss Bobby Taitano?
I'm very familiar with her, correct?
She was the security technician, correct?
Assigned to our bank, that's correct.
Yes. But you're not sure when Miss Bobby Taitano started working at the bank?
I can't be really sure. Yes, you're right.
Thank you. Bobby has been a technician for 8 years, correct? At least 8 years.
If so, yes, if I can believe.
Yet you're still not sure when she started working.
I have a bad memory, so I can't remember.
Thank you. Now, going to the security cameras, in 2023, you scheduled an upgrade for your security cameras, correct?
Yes, with Bobby Taitano as well.
But you're not sure when you scheduled this.
Well, we did make an agreement on June, around June. That's when we're going to install
When
the
did you
cameras.
guys schedule this? You guys scheduled the date, you scheduled this on late November, early December, correct?
I'm sorry, could you please repeat your question?
You stated, you and Bobby scheduled the cameras on late November, early December.
Yes, but she recommended on June though.
Mr. Borja, are you aware Ms. Taitano was fired in late November?
Yes, I remember that.
And in January, a new make-up technician took over.
Yeah, surprisingly.
That was Beth.
Yes, that's correct.
And you and Beth worked together to have the cameras installed.
Well, not written in my affidavit, but we did work together.
Only you and Beth had access to the activation date.
That is correct.
And when Ms. Bobby Taitano was working at the bank, she has access to behind the counters, correct?
I'm sorry, could you please rephrase your question?
When Ms. Taitano was working at the bank, she has access to behind the counters.
That is correct.
But she's not the only one.
No, that's not.
So you had access.
Yes, I also have access to it.
Beth had access.
You're correct.
Johnny Bermudez had access.
That's right.
Now, I would like to ask you a few questions about the mortgage. You mentioned that Ms. Taino wasn't able to make current her mortgage, correct?
Yes.
But she did in June 13, correct?
Yes, the last day of her deadline.
She did make current.
Yes, that is correct.
Now I'd like to ask you a few questions about the Oliai robbery.
Go ahead.
You described the robber to be approximately the same height as Bobby
That's exactly what I said.
and weight,
That's correct.
but you're not sure how the robber looked like.
I wasn't able to identify them, unfortunately.
That wasn't your focus.
No, it wasn't.
Your focus was on the gun.
Yes, it was. My life was in danger.
You never saw the face.
I couldn't see behind the mask.
You never heard the robber.
They gave me a slip, so of course not.
You never. Therefore, the robber could have been a man, correct?
I'm sorry.
You never saw the face.
Behind the mask, couldn't
You never
see.
heard.
They gave me a slip. I couldn't.
Therefore, this robber could have been
Your
a
Honor
man.
calls for speculation.
Your Honor, I am asking based on the witness's personal knowledge. I'm not asking him to provide a guess, but a relevant information that could help the jury.
So speculation in regards to the gender of the robber, given all the information provided that this witness did not see the face because of the mask and did not hear a voice, not even a peep, I think it's reasonable in this context to make an argument. So it's not speculation, the objection's overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So the robber could have been a man.
I can't be so sure.
And after the robbery, you saw the robber get into a light blue car and drove away.
In a light blue sedan, exactly.
You never saw the car's make,
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to.
model,
Nope.
or license plate.
Nope.
Now, isn't it true there was another person at the robbery?
Yes, the victim with me.
Johnny Bermudez.
Exactly, my assistant manager.
Isn't it true that you were suspicious of Johnny Bermudez?
Yeah, but again, he was the victim,
You were suspicious of him.
of course.
You even called him shifty,
Yes, he was. He's regular.
tempered.
Mm-hmm.
So, isn't it true that after the second robbery, Johnny Bermudez disappeared?
That's exactly what happened.
He never returned to work,
Never seen him till after that.
never left a
Objection,
note.
Your Honor, assumes facts, non-evidence. My witness never testified that Johnny Bermudez left or.
This is an employee of the bank, and this is the manager that's testifying. So the objection's overruled. And we had prior testimony about the disappearance of Johnny Bermudez as well.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Just to reiterate, Johnny Bermudez never returned to work after the second robbery.
Never seen him till then.
Never left a notice.
Nope.
You never heard from him since.
Yes, again, since then, never.
Mr. Borja, despite Johnny Bermudez's disappearance, you decided that Miss Bobby Taino was the robber.
Of course, I did.
You were suspicious of her after she paid her mortgage.
Yeah, where did you get the money?
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay, that concludes the cross-examination by counsel. So this is now going back on a redirect. So thank you, Ms. Wang. Redirect by Mr. Calvo, was it? Or, I'm sorry, Mr. Maritita?
Your Honor, unfortunately, I do not have any time.
Oh, that's right. So that will be waived. No redirect, so no recross. That means we will conclude the testimony of Mr. Lolo Borjas Jesus Masi. You may
Thank
step
you,
down.
Your Honor. Thank
and
you.
don't forget your name tag.
Yes, Your Honor.
Any other witnesses from the government?
None, Your Honor.
So the government rests.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Fast forward motions, then we go to the defense.
Your Honor, at this time, the defense calls Ms. Bobby Taino to the stand.
All right, so we will proceed with the defense case in chief. As the witness approaches the witness box, I remind Ms. Bobby Taino that she is under oath, and she acknowledges. And likewise to counsel, if you wish to move around the well, please grab that microphone and keep it with you.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, main tent is up. All
May I
right, you
proceed?
Yes, you may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Miss Bobby.
Good morning, Miss Lim.
What do you do for a living?
I recently got a job at Heavenly Espresso, which is a small cafe near my house.
Did you work anywhere before this?
Yes, previously I was a security technician at MetGot Security Company for around 8 years.
What is MetGot Security?
Oh, it's a small company based here in Saipan that installs and manages security systems.
What was your role in the company?
There, I had a regular rotation of companies where I'd perform and schedule periodic inspections at.
Are you familiar with the Saipan Community Bank?
Yes, I was their security specialist for a few years when I was working at Metcot.
Specifically, what did you do for the bank as their security specialist?
I recommended any necessary upgrades and scheduled installations that were approved by Lolo at their 2 branches.
Now, you previously heard Mr. Lolo testify that you installed an upgrade. Do you recall doing this?
No, I don't recall even suggesting that they needed an upgrade, much less going ahead and scheduling one.
Thank you. Do you know Mr. Lolo?
Yes, I do know Lolo.
How do you know Mr. Lolo?
Lolo is the Saipan Community's bank manager and was actually the staff that so kindly helped me secure a mortgage.
And that mortgage you mentioned, what was it for?
See, at that point, I had finally saved up enough money for my dream house on Oleai, and I needed a mortgage from the bank to finance what the down payment wouldn't cover.
How were you able to pay for this house?
I'd worked at multiple jobs, but ultimately, if it weren't for the kindness of Lolo and the bank, I wouldn't have gotten that house.
Did you continue working at Medcot?
No, actually. In late 2023, I was abruptly fired from my job.
What happened?
Apparently, my boss had received this report of me embezzling money from the company.
Was it true?
No, not at all. What this report was saying was absolutely untrue. I had never stolen anything from anybody, and I didn't understand where this was all coming from.
How did being let go affect you financially?
I could barely make do. Even my phone landline connection was disconnected. If I still wanted to eat and pay my bills, I really only had enough money left for a month's mortgage payment. So come December, I make the payment. But after that, I just could not scrape enough money.
I'm sorry to hear that, Miss Bobby. Did you try reaching out to the bank?
No, I was just so embarrassed about my situation. Which, now looking back, I wish I had the courage to speak up and try and talk to Lolo.
Did the bank ever reach out to you?
They did. I got a chance when Lolo came to my house around late April.
Why was Mr. Lolo there?
Lolo wanted to know what was going on with me and my missing payments at that point.
I want to talk a bit more about Mr. Lolo's visit. What happened when he came?
I explained to him what I was going through and my situation, and honestly, at the end of it, I felt reassured. He then wrote me a check to the Saipan Community Bank for my overdue mortgage payments.
If I were to show you a copy of this check, would you be able to recognize it?
Yes, I would.
Your Honor, let the record reflect, I'm now handing opposing counsel what has been marked as Exhibit 2. Your Honor, may I approach?
This is Exhibit 3.
Exhibit 2, the
2.
check.
I apologize. Yes.
Thank
Yes,
you.
you may approach.
Ms. Bobby, I hand you a clear and unmarked copy of Exhibit 2. Could you please tell the court what I have just handed you?
This is a copy of the check that I got from Suete Casino and paid to the bank.
How do you recognize it?
This is the copy that Pat Munya made and what I handed to Lolo Borja.
Is it a clear and accurate is it a fair and accurate representation of it?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time we offer Exhibit 2 into evidence. The authenticity has been stipulated.
Any objection?
Yes, Your Honor. Objection to hearsay?
Your Honor, this is a legally operative document and is therefore not hearsay as a check cannot be offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted.
Your Honor, it is providing a statement that he did pay this statement. It's offering Bobby Taitano's declarant, and it is hearsay as it is an out-of-court statement, and they are offering it for the truth of the matter.
The objection is overruled. A hearsay statement is made by a person. The check is not one declaring any statement. The foundation has been established that this was the same check that was tendered by the witness to the bank. So with that foundation and the relevance, the objection is overruled. If there's no other arguments?
No arguments, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, then Exhibit 2 is received into evidence and may be published to the jury.
Thank you, Your Honor. Please refer to the Exhibit 2 in your binders. Ms. Bobby, could you take a look at the check? How much was this check for?
It was for $5,212.14.
How did you know about the exact cost of your mortgage due?
I checked it on my most recent mortgage statement.
Now, what did you do with this check?
After I got it from Pat Munya, I then paid it to the Olei Bank on the morning of June 13th to Lolo.
Is there a reason you paid this check on June 13th?
Yes, that's when I had finally gotten enough money and got the money in this check form.
Thank you. You can put the check aside now. On June 13th, did you do anything else that day?
Yes, actually, someone came to my house.
What happened?
This person showed up asking me really aggressive questions about some stolen car or where I'd been the past few days. And I come to realize that that person at my house was Detective Ellie Crisostomo, the one sitting over there.
How did you respond to this?
I was very uncomfortable. When I had asked a simple question of what this was for, I wasn't given an answer. And then the next thing I knew, I was being arrested and put into handcuffs.
Miss Bobby, do you own a car?
No, I had a dark blue sedan, but that was the one I sold on the morning of June 10th.
Do you own a black mask?
No, I don't.
Do you own white sneakers?
No.
Do you own a silver handgun?
No, I don't.
Miss Bobby, did you hold a gun to Mr. Lolo Borja?
No, I would never do such a thing. Lolo had just shown me such grace and patience with my mortgage statement. I could never.
Finally, Miss Bobby, did you rob the 2 branches of the Saipan Community Bank?
No, I had nothing to do with those robberies.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, the witness is passed. Thank you, Ms. Lim. We're going to turn to the cross-examination of the witness. Would that be by Mr. Maritita?
Now, good afternoon, Ms. Titano. I would like to talk to you about your mortgage payments regarding last year. From January of 2024, you were never able to make those payments?
Unfortunately, no.
And this was because you didn't have the money?
Yes, I lost my job.
However, Mr. Borja, and you previously stated that Mr. Borja did come to your house regarding you about your mortgage payments.
Yes, he wanted to know what was going on.
And you claim he never mentioned foreclosure, correct?
Yes, nothing about the letter.
However, you did receive the letter, did you not?
No, apparently they had said they mailed it. I don't check my mail. I try to do things electronically.
The date that letter was sent to you, if I recall, was April 26, 2024. And was this not the date nearing your mortgage payments, where you were constantly missing it?
April, I don't recall because, again, I never received this letter in the mail. I received it when it was in the discovery of this case sometime in September.
And it was on your own fault that you never saw it, was it not?
I guess, but again, Lolo didn't mention anything about this when they visited my home.
Now, Mr. Titano, you've also worked at Saipan Community Bank. However, you testify you don't recall ever scheduling the installation and upgrades of these security cameras?
Yes.
And this includes the dates for June 10th and 12th?
Yes, I don't recall that.
So you can't remember this at all?
Yes, it sounds like something I might have done, but I specifically don't remember doing it with the Saipan Community Bank.
Now let's talk about something else you don't recall. You never mentioned or have given any information about the buyer of your car?
No, I didn't. I didn't get personal details.
Well, you can't even give us an approximate height to them?
No, I didn't get a height.
Approximate weight?
Nope.
Objection relevance.
Yes, what is the relevance?
What is it?
Relevance.
Your Honor, this is relevant to the case as it pertains to Mr. Bobby Titano's credibility. He claims he sold this, however, she claims, my apologies, Your Honor. She claims she sold this, however, she can't give any specific details or anything about her buyer.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Yes.
The witness has already testified that she sold the car and who she sold it to, the height of who she sold it
to is not relevant, and to the extent that it is relevant, it is more prejudicial than probative that the prosecution is claiming that they did not remember.
I'm prepared to rule unless you want to add to it. None.
I don't need that.
Well, I do see its relevance because the testimony by the witness, Ms. Taisteno, is that she sold the blue car before the first robbery and the second robbery occurred. And the discussion about the height and weight of the person who bought it might be relevant to, say, the witness's testimony and the description. So objections overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Restating my question, Ms. Taitano, you can't give us any specific details about this mysterious buyer?
No, like I said, I didn't get personal details because it happened through Facebook. They were just some collector.
And you cannot even tell us a name of this person.
No, I cannot.
So you failed to know your foreclosure deadline is despite receiving it.
Again, I didn't receive the letter. I don't check my mail. And Lolo didn't mention this when he came to my house.
You failed to know when you were supposed to activate and install
Objection
these upgrades.
asked and answered.
Your Honor, this is for clarification purposes. I am restating what the witness has previously testified.
All right, I'm going to indulge. Objections overruled.
You failed to know any details about the buyer that you claim you sold him to.
Again, I didn't get personal details, so no.
And you just testified that, according to your word, you were alone on the days of June 10th and 12th.
Yes, because I live alone at home.
So we don't have anyone who can testify your whereabouts on the mornings of those days, Ms. Taitano?
No, because I live at home alone.
So we only have your word for it?
Yes, you could say.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have no further questions for Ms. Taitano.
All right, so the cross-examination by Mr. Maritita is concluded. Any redirect, Ms. Lim?
Yes, briefly, Your Honor.
Okay.
Miss Bobby, did Mr. Lolo, or did you receive a mortgage foreclosure letter that Mr. Lolo mentioned?
No, I didn't receive it and only saw it and discovered it through the discovery of this case.
Do you recall scheduling an installation for the bank?
No, I don't recall suggesting nor scheduling an installation.
Why don't you remember who you sold your car to?
It was through some Facebook ad that I put out because I just needed to sell the money quickly. I didn't get any personal details, and once they picked up the car, I thought the transaction was pretty much completed.
Finally, during that time, was it unusual for you to stay home?
No, like I stated before, I didn't have a job, so a lot of my free time was spent at home.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, so that concludes the defense's first witness. Ms. Taitano, you are free to step down, return to your seat. Any other witnesses by the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, the defense calls up Pat Munoz to stand.
All right, so Mr. Park, looks like he's conducting the direct examination of Mr. Pat Munoz. All right, Mr. Munoz, please take the seat, and you are reminded that you're already under oath. Nice.
Good morning, Mr. Munoz.
Good morning, Mr. Park.
I'll be asking you a couple questions regarding June 10th and June 12th.
For sure.
But before that, let's talk about you. What is your occupation?
Well, I work at the Suete Casino as the floor's assistant manager.
And what do you do as the floor assistant manager?
As the floor's assistant manager, I find myself dividing my time between the floor and the cage itself.
And could you please tell the jury what is the floor?
The floor is the area where players come to, gamble.
And what is the cage?
The cage is the area where players exchange their chips for money, yeah.
And just for clarification purposes, could you please tell the jury what does it mean to exchange?
To exchange would mean to change your money into chips, which you would then use on the floor.
And what does it mean to cash in?
To cash in would mean to exchange your chips for money.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz. Now, do you know the defendant of this case, Bobby Taitano?
I do, yes.
How do you know her?
Well, Bobby's been a regular at the casino since 2011, and she's been a frequent winner ever since.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz. Now, I'll be shifting your attention to June 10 around 4:30 p.m. What were you doing?
On June 10th, I was doing my job when Bobby came in.
And how much did she bring?
Bobby brought in around $2,000 to $2,500.
$2,000 to $2,500. Is that usually how much she brings?
No, it's a little more than she usually brings. I learned that she just sold her car, so she was feeling lucky. And since she was good at gambling, she wanted to test her luck.
Thank you. And did you see Bobby later that day?
I did, yes, when she came to cash in.
And how much did she cash in?
Around $3,000 to $4,000.
And how did she receive her money?
She received her money in cash, mostly 50s.
All right, Mr. Munoz, now let's talk about Bobby Titano's appearance that day. What was she wearing?
Well, Bobby was wearing blue jeans and a black t-shirt.
And is there anything unusual about this attire?
No, I'd say it's pretty casual clothing.
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Your Honor, this is highly relevant to this case as Bobby Titano is being here alleged for 2 counts of armed robbery, and her appearance and the robber's appearance is relevant to this case.
Identification is definitely relevant, so the objection's overruled.
Yes, Your Honor.
Let me re-ask the question. And is there anything unusual about this appearance, attire?
No, I'd say it's pretty casual clothing.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz. Now I'll be shifting your attention to June 12th around 12:15 p.m. What were you doing?
On June 12th, once again, as usual, I was doing my job when Bobby came in.
And how much did she bring this time?
This time, she brought in around $4,000 to $4,500.
And how did she bring her money this time?
She brought her money in a paper bag with the same 50s as I gave her last time.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz. And were you the one who cashed in her money this time too?
Yes, I was.
How much did she cash in?
A little to around $5,000.
And how did she receive her money?
This time, however, she received her money in a check.
Could you please refer to... Oh, yeah. Could you please refer to Exhibit 2 on the witness stand? And Your Honor and members of the jury, please refer to Exhibit 2, which has already been entered into evidence.
Yes, Exhibit 2.
Mr. Munoz, how much was this check for?
This check was for $5,212.14.
And who is the payee?
The Saipan Community Bank.
And did Bobby tell you why she wanted her money in a check?
Well, apparently Bobby was kidding about it being her day off. She lost her job and she was behind on her mortgage payments. So she wanted to use this check right here to pay off her mortgage.
All right, Mr. Munoz, now let's talk about Bobby Titano's attire this day. What was she wearing?
Bobby was wearing, if I recall, blue jeans and a black hoodie.
And once again, is there anything unusual about this attire?
No. Once again, you'd think it's normal for people to come into the casino with black hoodies, naturally to cover their poker face.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz. And for my final question, could you please tell the jury how Bobby Titano was acting both days?
Bobby was Bobby, cool, calm, I'd say collected.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Park. That concludes the direct. Any cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Calvo.
Well, first of all, good afternoon, Mr. Munoz.
Good morning.
I apologize. Good morning.
No worries. Good morning.
I'm just going to be asking you some questions about how you know the defendant. Now, you usually know the defendant to be coming in later in the afternoon, whenever he came in over the past years.
Well, I mean, she had just lost her job, so she had more free time.
And usually, she comes in with $50 to $100.
Around that amount, yes.
But on June 10th, she came in with upwards of $2,000.
Yes, because she sold her cars, so.
And she came in earlier than she usually does, at 4:30.
Yes, that is correct.
And on June 12th, she came in with upwards of $4,000.
I'm sorry, what was that?
On June 12th, she came in with upwards of $4,000.
Yes.
And this time she came in at 12:15.
That is correct.
Again, earlier than she usually comes.
Yes.
And a lot more money than she usually has.
A little more, yes.
And again, Mr. Munoz, you didn't see the defendant on the morning of June 10th?
On the morning of June 10th? No,
Yes.
no, I did not.
And you didn't see her on the morning of June 12th?
I did not.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Short and sweet. That was concludes the cross. So, Mr. Park, would you like to do a redirect?
Briefly, Your Honor.
Okay.
Mr. Munoz, Mr. Calvo over here is bringing up June 10 and Bobby Titano a little bit earlier than usual. Do you know why this is the case?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Mr. Calvo has brought up that Bobby came in a little bit earlier than usual on June 10th. Do you know why this is the case?
Once again, because Bobby lost her job, so she had more freedom than usual.
And Bobby Titano brought in a lot more money than she usually does. Why is this the case?
Because she had just sold her cars, so naturally, since she was a good gambler, she'd want to test out her luck.
Thank you. No further questions.
All right, I believe that concludes a redirect. No recross, correct, Mr. Calvo?
No, Your Honor.
All right, so we will continue with the presentation of the defendant's case in chief. Your next witness, and it looks like this will be by Ms. Wang?
Your Honor, may my witness please.
Oh, yes, of course.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Your Honor, before we proceed, may I have a time check?
Oh, time check, yes. So thank you, Mr. Munya. And time check is?
Approximately 11 minutes left.
Approximately 11 minutes.
Thank you. At this time, defense called Don Camacho to the stand.
All right. Well, Ms. Dawn Camacho, please step up to the witness box. And as you approach, let me again remind you that you are already under oath, and she has not acknowledged it. All right, Ms. Wang, you may proceed.
Good morning, Ms. Dawn Camacho.
Good morning, Ms. Wang.
Ms. Camacho, what is your occupation?
I am currently a private investigator.
And who do you work for?
I work for myself. I have my own investigative agency that I opened up in 2003.
How long have you worked as a private investigator?
I've been working as a private investigator since I opened my agency, so around 20 years now.
Ms. Camacho, what do you do as a private investigator?
As a private investigator, I analyze all of the cases that are brought to me and report back on any relevant evidence or information.
How do you conduct your investigation?
When conducting my investigation, I make sure to look at all of the evidence. This includes technology. It plays a huge part in what I do. I take a look at any GPS and location data, digital records, or any files that might be helpful.
Ms. Camacho, how have you used location GPS data in your investigations?
Well, there was a case a few years ago where I was able to use GPS and location data to track the true culprit.
What sort of evidence do you look for?
When looking for evidence, again, I look at the whole investigation as a whole, any interviews and evidence that might help me make my investigation.
Thank you. Ms. Dawn Camacho, for the record, what is your education?
I graduated from the University of Guam in 2001 with a criminal justice degree, and then after that, I continued to take continuing education classes on GPS and location technology from the Northern Marianas College, and I even received a certificate in GPS and location technology from the Defense Institute of Continuing Education 2018.
Thank you. And have you ever testified as an expert witness before?
Yes, I've testified as an expert witness before in both federal and Commonwealth courts.
Your Honor, at this time, I tender Ms. Dawn Camacho as an expert in the field of GPS and location technology.
Ms. Malaborbor?
No objections, Your Honor.
All right, so the court will show receive her as that expert, and the jurors are so informed.
Thank
You
you.
may proceed.
Now I'll ask you a few questions about Ms. Bobby Titano, Ms. Bobby Titano and your involvement in this case. Do you know Ms. Bobby Titano?
Yes, I do.
How do you know her?
I was hired by Ms. Titano's defense team to investigate the robberies that happened on June 10th and 12, 2024.
And during your investigation, did you do your own location analysis?
Yes, I did.
Can you please explain to the court what you did?
Sure. So I was able to acquire Ms. Titano's cell phone, which is an Android device that is automatically connected to her Google account. And using that, I was able to use the Google Data Download tool to get her location on the mornings of June 9, 10, 12, and 13, 2024. I then filtered that data to the surrounding areas, which are a few blocks of the two robbery locations.
Why did you focus on the dates June 9, 10, 12, and 13th?
I focused on those dates because the robberies happened on June 10th and on June 12th. So I added a day before the first robbery and a day after the second one, just for context.
And why did you look at the immediate surroundings?
Well, I looked at the immediate surroundings because that is where I wanted my investigation to be focused on.
Now I'd like to ask you a few questions about the Gualarai robbery. Do you know what day that happened?
Yes.
What day is that?
June 12th.
And during your investigation, what did you find out about Ms. Taitno's location during the Gualarai robbery?
Well, through my investigation, when I was looking in Ms. Taitno's location data, during the Gualarai robbery, which is on June 12th, Ms. Taitno was nowhere in the area on June 12th and on any of the 4 days that I examined.
Did you find anything else?
Yes, I wanted to see if she was somewhere else at Gualarai, but then again, she was not at Gualarai at all on any of the 4 days that I examined.
Now I'd like to ask you a few questions about the Oliai robbery. What day was the Oliai robbery?
The Oliai robbery was on June 10th.
And what did you find out about Ms. Taitno's location during the Oliai robbery?
Well, the Oliai robbery part is a bit tricky, but I came to the same conclusion that on June 10th, Ms. Taitno was not at the Saipan Community Bank Oliai branch at the times of the robbery.
Thank you. Now, I would like to ask you, was she ever at the bank?
Yes, she was only at the bank on June 9 and on June 13th.
Your Honor, at this time, let the record reflect that I am now showing opposing counsel what has been pre-marked as Exhibit 5.
Exhibit 5, okay.
Yes. Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
Ms. Camacho, can you please identify this exhibit to the court?
Sure. This is Ms. Taitano's Google location data on the mornings that I examined.
And do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
I made it.
How did you make it?
Well, again, as I mentioned earlier, I was able to acquire Ms. Taitano's cell phone. So using her Google location data, that is what I used to create this map.
And is this something you often make in your investigative work?
Yes.
Is this a fair and accurate representation of Ms. Bobby Taitno's location?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I move into evidence Exhibit 5. The authenticity has been stipulated.
All right. Any objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
All right. Without objection, the Exhibit 5 is received into evidence and may be published to the jury.
Your Honor, yes. Please refer to Exhibit 5.
And for those who, with page numbers, it's the last page, page 4444.
Thank you. Ms. Camacho, can you please locate Ms. Bobby Taitno's house?
Sure. Ms. Taitano's house is around Oliai Beach, and I've marked it with a heart.
Are there timestamps on that?
Yes, there are.
And can you identify Heavenly Espresso?
Heavenly Espresso is right across the street, and I've marked it with a coffee mug.
And are there timestamps there?
Yes, there is right below it.
Can you please identify the Saipan Community Bank in Oliai?
Yes, it is where the building and book is at.
Now, what dates were Ms. Taitano at the bank?
She was at the bank on June 9th and on June 13th.
How do you know that?
Well, I know that because as you heard earlier from Ms. Taitano, she went to the bank on June 9th to visit Lolo, and as you heard earlier from Mr. Lolo Borja, Ms. Taitano went to the bank on June 13th to pay off her mortgage.
Was Ms. Taitano ever at the Oliai bank during the day of the Oliai robbery?
No, she was not at the Oliai bank on June 10th.
What dates was she at the bank? Just for confirmation.
She was only at the bank on June 9th and on June 13th.
Can you please tell the court what times are shown on the map for June 10 and June 12?
For June 10th, the only times that are shown on the map are 8:13 a.m. and 8:26 a.m. And for June 12th, it's 7:55 a.m. and 8:05 a.m.
Ms. Camacho, why is 9 a.m. not explicitly shown on your map?
9 a.m. is not on the map because Ms. Taitano was not at the bank on June 10th or 12th at 9 a.m.
Thank you. Now, with your findings, what did you do with them?
I submitted them to Detective Ellie Crisostomo.
What did Detective Ellie Crisostomo do?
I was completely dismissed by them.
Objection, hearsay.
Your Honor, I'm just simply asking.
The witness just testified a hearsay from another witness that is still considered hearsay because you offered a dismissal, which is nonverbal.
Your Honor.
I did not hear the witness utter or testify to any statements made by the detective. So those there are no words. It's more of her understanding of the response by the witness. So that is something that the witness can testify to personally of her own. So the objection is overruled.
May I be heard?
Sure.
A part of hearsay is nonverbal. Witness just testified experiencing a dismissiveness from another witness. That is still hearsay.
Well, it's still her observation too. So she's a recipient witness, and so therefore she may testify to that. So she's describing something that may be a bodily gesture, so it's still permissible. The objection is still overruled. The testimony stands. Counsel, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I would just like to clarify again. What did Detective Ellie Crisostomo do?
I was dismissed by Detective Ellie Crisostomo.
Why would you say he dismissed you?
Detective Ellie Crisostomo was biased.
And why would you say that he was biased?
Well, while dismissing me, Detective Ellie Crisostomo indicated that he knows a criminal when he sees one.
Ms. Camacho, at this point into your investigation, with all the evidence you have gathered, were you able to form an opinion on Ms. Taitno's whereabouts?
Yes.
In your expert opinion, in 9 a.m. on June 10, was Bobby at the ODI Bank?
No.
In your expert opinion, in 9 a.m. on June 12, was Ms. Bobby Taitno at the Guadalupe Bank?
No.
Ms. Camacho, in your expert opinion, can you rob a bank at gunpoint when you're not there?
No, you cannot.
Objection relevance. What does being held at gunpoint have to do with what you're talking about?
The relevance as to opportunity to be able to commit the act that she's been accused with, it's pretty relevant.
All right.
So the objection is overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. No further questions.
All right, so that concludes the direct examination of Ms. Camacho. Any cross? It looks like we will hear from Ms. Danica Malaborbor.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, Ms. Dawn Camacho, would you say that you are an unbiased and a meticulous investigator?
Yes.
And today, in this case, you were paid by defense to do an investigation of the whereabouts of Bobby Taitno before, during, and after?
As all professionals would in a court setting, yes.
And you were also paid to work with the defendant, correct?
Again, as all professionals would be, yes.
And in addition to your investigation, you were asked to put an opinion of another expert's conclusion to this case, correct?
Yes, I was.
And with that, let's dive into your investigation. And in your investigation, you obtained Bobby's phone?
Yes, I did.
And Bobby's phone had all the location data about Bobby, correct?
Yes.
And in this meticulous investigation, you filtered aspects of Bobby Taitno's whereabouts, correct?
Yes, I did, to the immediate areas of the two bank robberies.
And that aspect of that whereabout is the casino, correct?
That I filtered out?
Yes.
Yes, because it wasn't near any of the two bank locations.
All right. And in addition to that, to make your conclusion to put an opinion of Ali Sar's conclusion, you had to obtain the information from Bobby Taitno's attorneys, correct?
I'm sorry, could you clarify?
You obtain information of Ali Sar's conclusion from Bobby Taitno's attorneys, correct?
Yes, I was asked to comment on her affidavit.
And with that, you made your conclusion about Bobby Taitno's whereabouts solely based on the information from Bobby's phone, correct?
Yes, Bobby's
but not
location
Bobby
data.
himself, correct?
I got it from Miss Taitano's location data. Yes.
And you cannot undoubtedly prove that your investigation proves that Bobby Taino is not the robber, correct?
I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question, please?
You cannot undoubtedly prove that Bobby Taino was not the robber solely based on the location data that you've used.
Are you asking me if I cannot prove Miss Taitano was the robber?
Yes.
It makes it unlikely that Miss Taitano was the robber based on the location data that I've presented.
Would you also say your meticulous investigation also has possibilities?
Yes.
And in that possibility, it could be theoretically possible that Bobby could have turned off Bobby's phone.
Yes, but that is unlikely in this case.
And also, in addition to that, Bobby could have also turned off the location services function, correct?
Yes, but again, that is unlikely.
And it is also possible that Bobby simply did not connect to any Google services at that time, correct?
Yes, but again, in this case, that is unlikely.
And in most of those cases, Bobby's location data wouldn't be tracked, correct?
Yes.
Now, Ms. Camacho, you testified you worked as an expert witness, correct?
I am a private investigator.
Yes. And you've worked for the Commonwealth and the federal, correct?
Yes, I've testified in both Commonwealth and federal courts.
And you've always testified for defense, correct?
It's just so happened to turn out that way.
Never for prosecution?
I suppose not.
And in this case, and not in this case, you stated in your affidavit, you like rooting for the little guy, correct?
Yes, I did say that.
And in this case, this little guy is Mr. Bobby Taino, correct?
I guess so.
Your Honor, no further questions.
All right, thank you. That concludes the cross-examination of Donna Camacho. We will proceed with a redirect. Ms. Wang?
Yes, Your Honor.
And how much time does she have?
1 minute and 10 seconds.
70 seconds.
Thank you.
Ms. Camacho, I would like to first start off. Why did you not include Suete Casino on your map?
Well, Suete Casino isn't within the immediate surroundings, which is a few blocks of the two bank locations, which is why it is not included.
Now, going back to your investigation, did you ever look into Ms. Taitno's phone?
Yes, I did.
What, if anything, did you find?
Well, I looked to see if Ms. Taitano had any VPNs or virtual private networks installed that could shroud or hide where she was, but she didn't have any of that installed. And also, I looked to see if her location tracking was enabled.
Was her location enabled?
Yes, and we know that from this exhibit because it was able to track certain of her locations, like when she was at the house and when she was at the bank. So that is how I know with certainty that Ms. Taitano has her location tracking on at least some of the times.
Could the location tracking be turned off?
Yes, but that is unlikely because Google makes it very hard for anyone to turn off their location settings. Even if you think you've turned it on, it will still turn it off. My apologies. It will still continue to track your location.
Thank you. And for my final questions, were you ever hired by a prosecution?
Yes, all professionals are in a courtroom setting are hired.
Have you been hired?
Excuse me, counsel, your time is up.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
All right. So that let me ask the attorneys for the defense. Any other witnesses? And actually, I'll excuse Ms. Donna Camacho, Susan Mossy. Thank you. You may step down. Counsel for the defense, do you have any other witnesses to present?
No, Your Honor. At this time, the defense rests.
All right. So with the conclusion of the presentation of the evidence by the defense, I take it there's no rebuttal witnesses to be presented by the government?
None, Your Honor.
Okay. So it looks like we can proceed to closing arguments.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, so closing argument in this case will be presented by Mr. Calabo.
Your Honor, before I begin, may I ask that I present to the jury exhibits that have been admitted already during my closing arguments?
You can present it as you speak. They already have copies, but if it will make it more efficient, yes, you may do so.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And make sure you hold on to a mic because it looks like you're going to be roaming. I guess whoever's doing the direct should use that mic, but it's okay. You may proceed.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Morning again.
Members of the jury, opposing counsel, and people of the court. At the beginning of this trial, we, the prosecution, told you that this would be a case of desperation turned to desperate measures. We, the prosecution, have the burden of proof, and we have called 3 witnesses, and they have testified the following beyond a reasonable doubt. 1, that multiple eyewitnesses consistently identified the build of the robber and the attire with the clothes found in Bobby Titano's home and a blue car with the title of that car found in the defendant's home. 2, that the GPS data placed the robber in the area of Sweaty Casino, the same casino where Bobby Taino was testified to have gone, the same casino where Pat Muña, a casino manager, wrote Bobby Taino their check. And 3, that no one can testify where Bobby was in the mornings of June 10th and June 12th, that no one can tell you who the person Bobby Taino sold their car to was, and that no one can testify that Bobby Taino even sold their car besides the defendant herself. And beyond just the evidence that you heard in the course of this trial, look at the witness selection. We, the prosecution, have shown you among the best the Department of Public Safety has to offer, a detective with years of experience, a computer forensic analyst who studied and graduated from Stanford University, and we were even lucky enough to have an eyewitness account from someone who was there that day, someone who can tell you what they saw, someone who can tell you who they saw. And now you know who that is. Now, what is the defense? What did they present? A casino manager who all they could tell you was that he gambles. A private investigator who was paid on Bobby's dime to tell you that she was innocent. And the defendant herself, who in the course of her direct examination was on the brink of tears. But were they tears of sadness and regret, or were they tears of finally having to face the reality that she was caught? Finally having to face the reality that the person that's on this map was Bobby Taitano. Finally having to face the reality that the person that Lolo Borja saw was Bobby Taitano. Finally having to face the reality that on June 10th and on June 12th, Bobby Taitano, in desperation of trying to make money to pay back her home, walked into Saipan Community Bank twice, armed with a weapon, pointed it at the heads of people like yourselves, and she demanded money. How? How can we see all this, and how can you give a verdict of innocence? We, the prosecution, have the burden of proof, and we've presented you all the possible evidence that we can, and you should know only one possible verdict. What did you truly hear in the course of this trial? Because if you heard the truth, and I'm sure that you did, you would know that Bobby Taitano, on both counts of armed robbery, is guilty. And with that, Your Honor, I notice that I do still have some time, and I'd like to reserve that for rebuttal.
We will have that. That looks like 1 minute and 30 seconds. Is that what it is? According to your hand. All right, so that is so reserved.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, members of the jury.
Thank you, Mr. Calvo. We will hear from, looks like Mr. Park, who will be giving the defense's closing argument. And likewise, you can grab the mic if you're going to be roaming, which I trust you will. Here we go.
May it please the court, Your Honor, members of the jury, and opposing counsel. My name is David Park, and today, along with my co-counsel, we had the privilege of representing the defendant of this case, Bobby Taitano. Now, as Maritita has said in the opening statement for the prosecution, this case isn't about a financial desperation which led to Bobby Taitano making an illegal move. This case is about prosecution's desperation to find any suspect, which led to them rushing to judgment. Now, in a moment, the judge will instruct you that if, after hearing all of the evidence today, you have doubt, meaning you see there is a possibility that Bobby Taitano is not guilty, then you must find her not guilty. This is the burden of proof that the prosecution has to meet, and this burden is the highest standard afforded in the Constitution of the United States. However, as seen through today's trial, it is clear that the prosecution has failed to meet this burden of proof, for there is so much doubt. But you heard exactly what happened through our witnesses. Bobby Titano was at her house during the days of the robberies. She was not at or near Saipan Community Bank, and Exhibit 5 proved this. Don Camacho, our expert in GPS and location technology, was able to track the whereabouts of Bobby Titano during June 9th, 10th, 12th, and 13th. Exhibit 5 proved that the only days Bobby Titano was at the bank were June 9th and June 13th, not June 10th or June 12th. Yes, Bobby was behind on her mortgage, but she sold the only thing she had left, her car, and increased those funds at Sote Casino. Pat Munya proved this. At the casino, Bobby was cool, calm, collected, and as she usually does, she won at poker. She then got that money, went to Saipan Community Bank, and brought her mortgage up to date, a day before foreclosure. Members of the jury, this is not a crime. Now, Mr. Calvo over here had just told you the evidence that the prosecution has presented. But really, let's look into this. They said they brought the best that the DPS had to offer. However, what was the point of Ali Sars's testimony? She came here today to testify that there was a GPS tracker and it was dropped. This does not indicate anything. The robber was not determined. But what we could determine was that there was not a thorough investigation. I mean, there was a contradiction in witness descriptions. Lola Borja was the only witness to say the robber's physique was similar to that of Bobby Titano's. Both Ben Pangilinan and Johnny Bermudez described the robber to be taller and heavier than Bobby Titano's physique. Eli Crisosmo, after hearing all of this, disregarded their testimony, saying Lolo Borjas was the only one that was right. And both Ali Sars and Eli Crisosmo seem to be very defensive about their investigation today. But this investigation was not thorough. We never heard back from a shifty Johnny Bermudez, Saipan Community Bank's assistant manager, who mysteriously disappeared days after the robberies. Never to be heard, never to be seen, never to be questioned, never to be tracked. Lola Borja herself said that she suspected Johnny Bermudez, but Eli Crisosmo did not question Johnny Bermudez. And what evidence did Eli Crisosmo bring? Crisosmo did not find white sneakers. Crisosmo did not find a black mask. Crisosmo did not find a silver handgun. Crisosmo did not find stolen cash. Crisosmo did not find a getaway car. Crisosmo did not find a paper bag. Crisosmo did not find video footage. Crisosmo did not find fingerprints. After such lack of evidence, one would continue investigations. But Crisosmo, the best that the DPS had to offer, did not. Members of the jury, do not make the same mistake the prosecution did. Do not rush to judgment. Because the prosecution has rushed to judgment, they had charged the wrong person. The actual robber is still out there. Heck, Johnny Bermudez is still out there. Not in this courtroom. And it is for that reason that we ask you to return a verdict of not guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Park. We will turn back to the government for the rebuttal. Mr. Calvo?
Yes, Your Honor.
And how much time does he have left?
2 minutes and 22 seconds.
222, 2 minutes, 22 seconds.
I mean, sorry. 1 minute and 22 seconds.
I apologize.
A minute and 22 seconds?
You used 3 minutes and 38 seconds.
Okay, thank you.
So a minute, 22 seconds instead. Shave off a minute. You may proceed.
Again, good morning, Your Honor, the members of the jury, opposing counsel, and people of the court. The opposing counsel has brought up and as has brought up in opening arguments that we rushed to judgment. And they brought it up again in closing arguments that we rushed to judgment. But I ask you to consider, was it rushed when Eli Crisostomo investigated every possible eyewitness and checked every possible lead? Was it rushed when she went to the defendant's house and found the clothes and found the title in her home? Was it rushed when Ali Soares researched every possible GPS data point? When she came to multiple conclusions and presented them all to you today? Was it rushed when Lolo Borja stood up there and despite the trauma of what happened, despite the robber who pointed a gun at his head in this room, was it rushed when he told you his testimony? Was it rushed when we took 2 hours of your time to tell you everything, the truth? I ask that you not rush to judgment, because we've presented you the whole truth. We've presented you the correct person to convict for the crime. We presented you the whole truth. And we ask simply, don't rush to judgment. Consider the course of the trial. Consider everything that you
Mr. Calvo,
truly
your
heard.
time has stopped, so you need to wrap it up.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, I think you emphasized your point. Thank you, Jesus Mosley. All right, so members of the jury will allow you to retire. Usually I do give you the instruction, but given the hour, I will ask that the members of the jury retire. There's a deliberation room, calculation room in the back, and I'm sure they would like to take a little break. But before we do so, can we just give a nice round of applause to all these fabulous students? Well done. So why don't we go ahead and allow the jurors, I think they're allowed to, Madam Chairperson, coordinator, can we have them come back this way and the jurors?
And as the members of the bench come in, please stand. And when they sit, please sit. All rise. Please take your seats. Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for joining us here at the Commonwealth Supreme Court courtroom for the 2025 Mock Trial Award ceremony. We are streaming the ceremony live on the Northern Marianas Judiciary Facebook page, and we also welcome our audience who are viewing online there. Before we announce the awards, let's first thank and acknowledge our volunteers and donors for this year's mock trial competition. We thank the Public School System and Federal Programs Office, the Judiciary Historical Society, Governor Arnold I. Palacios, Lieutenant Governor David M. Apatang, Senate President Dennis Mendiola, Senator Selena Babauta, Senator Francisco Cruz, Senator Jude Hofschneider, Senator Carl King Neighbors, Senator Corina Magofnia, House Speaker Edmund S. Villagomez, House Floor Leader Marissa Flores, Representative Blas Jonathan Atto, Representative Angelo Camacho, Representative Joel Camacho, Representative Joseph Flores, Representative Thomas John Manglonia, Representative Elias Jerome Rangamar, and Representative John Paul Sablan. We also recognize and thank attorneys who served as volunteer judges and jurors: David Baines, Rachel Blue, Carmen Borja, John Bradley, Matthew Brown, Kerry Comstock, Carl De La Cruz, Molly Denner, Sean Frink, J. Robert Glass Jr., De La Go, Hyun Jae Lee, Michael Lee, Savannah Manglonia Jefferson, Denny Nie, J.P. St. Nicholas, Brian Sayers Nicholas, Stephen Pixley, Jean Rayfand, Hannah Robertson, Marcia Schultz, Gretchen Smith, Joaquin De Leon Guerrero Torres, Victorino De Leon Guerrero Torres, Vincent De Leon Guerrero Torres, Nicole Torres Ripple, and Michael White. I'd also like to acknowledge some special members in the audience: our Board of Education Chairperson Kodep Ogumoro Uludong, Senator Corina Magofnia, Representative Julie Ogo, and on behalf of the Commissioner of Education and present for the Public School System is Brandon Nicholas. From PSS Federal Programs Office is State Programs Officer Militia St. Nicholas. Next, I will recognize the members of the bench who are here with us today as we finish out the competition. Chief Justice Alexandro C. Castro, Justice John A. Manglonia, Justice Perry B. Enos, Chief Judge Ramona V. Manglonia, Judge Teresa Kim Tenorio, and Judge Lillian A. Tenorio. We also recognize each participating school along with their principal, teachers, and attorney coaches. Please stand up when your school is called. For Dr. Rita Hokuk Enos Senior High School, Principal Annette Calvo, Teacher Jocelyn Atalik, attorney coaches Charity Hudson, Joe Hallahan, and Oliver Manglonia. For Cagman High School, Principal Benjamin Jones Jr., teachers Elizabeth Baza and Joaquin Kyoshi Jr., and attorney coaches Allison Nelson and Relani Ogumoro. For Marianas High School, we have our teachers Robin Spade and Jacoby Wingfield, attorney coaches Michael Dotz and Rebecca Wiggins, and Melanie Sablan. For our first team from Saipan International School, we have Headmaster Ron Snyder, teacher Stasha Benix, attorney coaches Garth Backey and Janet King. And for our second team from Saipan International School, we have the same Headmaster Dr. Ron Snyder, teacher Stasha Benix, attorney coaches Garth Backey and Janet King. Please stand. For Saipan Southern High School, we have Principal Vince Dela Cruz, teachers Dr. Dora Mura and Paul Mura, attorney coaches Cassandra Knopf and Brendan Lady. For Tinian High School, we have Principal Elizabeth Przynski, our teacher Rory Starkey, and attorney coach Lucia Blanco Maritita. Thank you all for your commitment and dedication to the mock trial program and the students. For his brief remarks, here is the Honorable Alexandro C. Castro, Chief Justice of the Commonwealth Supreme Court.
Buenas, half a day, Gentile warming. Today is Super Friday. Because our future leaders of this Commonwealth spent the last 2 days competing for the 2025 National High School Mock Trial to be held in Phoenix, Arizona. So to the teacher coaches, attorney coaches, and parents, thank you for your support and dedication to the mock trial program. Mock trial program is one of the best programs out there for students to learn about our justice system. To the students who competed this year, thank you so much for coming forward and showcasing your oral advocacy ability. Whether you made it to the final or not, be proud of yourself, because you just competed among the best of the best, and you're one of the best. To the finalists, congratulations. You have earned the honor to represent the CNMI. in Phoenix, Arizona in May. You're now carrying the banner called Team CNMI. The best I could say at this time is fight, fight, fight. Practice, practice, practice. No retreat, no surrender. You can make it, and you must make it. Good luck, and Viva Team CNMI. Thank you.
Thank you, CJ Castro. And now let's continue to the awards. I will announce each award separately and provide some information about the awards and their requirements. Mock trial provides the students with the opportunity to receive both individual and team awards for their performance in the competition. The individual awards are also split between the two halves of each team, the prosecution and the defense. We will start with our individual awards and then give out the awards to our top competing teams. If you receive an individual award, please come up to the bench from my left side to receive it and have your photo taken with the bench. You will have the opportunity to take more photos with your supporters in the atrium after we conclude our ceremony. We will first give out awards to the witnesses. In mock trials, witnesses have the job of completely adopting a new character and must answer questions from both teams' attorneys as if they are their character. So for the first one, the honorable mention for prosecution witness. The honorable mention prosecution witness is our second highest scoring witness, as judged by the jury during preliminary round yesterday. This year, we are awarding Carlos Cabo from Dr. Rita Hokuk Enos Junior Senior High School.
Congratulations. Thank you. Right.
Take a photo here, please, Carlos.
Congratulations, Carlos. The next award is the Best Prosecution Witness, and this award is the top scoring witness on the prosecution side during the preliminary round yesterday. And the Best Prosecution Witness is from Saipan Southern High School, Yu Rong Jang.
Congratulations, man.
The next award is for Honorable Mention for Defense Witness. The Honorable Mention Defense Witness is the second highest scoring witness from the defense team. Same as the prosecution, this is judged by the jury during their preliminary and round performance. For this award, this goes to Jose Sablon from Saipan International School.
Sorry.
What grade are you, Rosa?
Ninth grade.
Rosa, good job.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Jose. The next award is the Best Defense Witness. The Best Defense Witness earned the highest score of all defense witnesses. This award goes to Marinus High School. Congratulations, Gia. Up next are the attorney awards. These are given out to the top 2 attorneys from both sides, prosecution and defense. Attorneys in mock trial act just like attorneys in the real world and are tasked with multiple different responsibilities during a round. An attorney may be required to give an opening or closing statement to the jury and must also question the witnesses from both teams to present the evidence they need to win their case. All throughout the trial, attorneys must also be vigilant to call objections to what their opposing counsel may be saying, which requires a thorough understanding of real court rules. The honorable mention for prosecution attorney stands out among their peers as a top litigator. This year, the award goes to Jeffrey Atelick from Cagman High School and Angelina Cabo and Stephen Leon from Marinus High School. Congratulations, Cagman and Marinus High School. The next award is the Best Prosecution Attorney. The Best Prosecution Attorney is the student who best presented their case to the jury. They showed exceptional skills, preparation, and mastery of the law. This year, the Best Prosecution Attorney goes to Aidan Calvo, Dr. Rita Hokic Unis Junior Senior High School. The next award is the Honorable Mention for Defense Attorney. Our Honorable Mention for the defense attorneys gave a strong performance yesterday during the preliminary round. This year, it goes to David Park, Marinus High School. The next award is the Best Defense Attorney. The Best Defense Attorney is our final individual award today. This goes to the student who was judged by the jury to present the most outstanding performance among the defending teams yesterday. This award goes to Ainsley Anchetta from Tinian High School.
Get your award.
Congratulations, Ainsley. The next award is the Supreme Court Professionalism Award. This trophy honors the team that best exemplified respect, courtesy, and integrity throughout the competition, as decided by their fellow competitors. This award goes to a team that has not only excelled in the courtroom, but also demonstrated sportsmanship and camaraderie outside of it. Our awardee is Dr. Rita Hopcook Enos Junior Senior High School. The whole team. Yeah, we finished the individual awards, so we'd like to request if the whole team can come up, along with the Commissioner of Education's representative and our board chairperson.
Judy, call the coaches. Yes. Call the coaches. Congratulations. Go Supreme Court. Anybody wants the trophy? Oh, you're a teacher. Okay, let's move up. Everyone shake your hands. Oh, no, wow, good morning. Good morning. Sir. That's the coaching. Charlie, congratulations. So you move on?
No, wait, put it down.
Congratulations, Dr. Rita Hopcook Enos, Junior Senior High School. The next award is for the third place for our mock trial competition. The next team award is for our third place, and this team moved on to the semi-final round yesterday afternoon and scored the third highest points of all the teams. The team in third place is Saipan International School.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Congratulations, folks.
Saipan International School, everybody. Our final two awards today will go to the top two teams. To our audience, please allow the second place team to have their own moment and accept this trophy before celebrating the first place team. And today, the 2025 second place team is Dr. Rita Hokuk Enos Junior Senior High School. The second place team is being awarded a trophy and individual silver medals in recognition of their excellent performance in the preliminary, semifinal, and championship rounds. This team worked incredibly hard over the last several months, and their performances have been truly inspiring. Congratulations, Dr. Rita Hokuk Enos Junior Senior High School. And now the 2025 mock trial champions. The champion team school will earn the championship perpetual gavel, and each team member will receive an individual trophy. In addition to this, the winning team will continue on to represent the Commonwealth at the National High School Mock Trial Tournament in Arizona in 3 months. The work begins anew. And our 2025 mock trial champions are Marianas High School.
Hardworking kids.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you for all the support. Thank you.
One, two, three. One more. One, two, three.
Congratulations to our 2025 mock trial champions, Marianas High School. Before we finish, we just would like to highlight that this event was made possible by the hard work and preparation from our mock trial coordinator and staff, our coordinator and Supreme Court Clerk of Court, Judy T. Aldan, Nora Borja, Martha Standish, Mary Glass, Ignacia Aldan, Tracy Limes, Jason Tarkong, Isabel Casley, Paige Lehman, James Halsey, Patrick Diaz, Novelin Wanya Tenorio, Eva Sofia Calvo, Ezreal Granada, Perlene Matagolay, Brandon Dellis Regis, Jandra Redep, Rach Sablon, Greg Tadella, Maria Terlahi, the staff and team at the Marshal Services Division, staff and team at the Office of Adult Probation, and our Drug Court Compliance Officer teams. Thank you all for joining us today. We request our special guests and competition participants to remain for group photos. Following the group photos, all teams may also gather in the atrium still for their celebratory photos as well. Thank you all for making this year's mock trial competition a success, and safe travels to our teams from Tinian and Rhoda, and we hope to see you all again next year. And to our new CNMI team, yay. This concludes our ceremony. Thank you. Please stand. Thank you. I'd like to ask for our championship team to please come. Our members of our jurors, our attorney, coaches, and everybody who participated to please come up for a one big group photo.